Hi, and thank you all for joining us today. We are broadcasting live on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 on the Gulf Coast and 107.7 FM in New Orleans.
The Church of Mavis Radio Show, Friday nights at 8 p.m., 7 Central, starring Jeffrey Pritchett with his co-hosts Wham and Jay McNicholas, right here on the United Paranormal Radio Network, UPRN 107.7 FM, New Orleans.
Tune in to UFO Undercover, Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern, with your host, Joe Montaldo, right here on the Paranormal Radio Network.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Authors Quill. I hope everybody's having a good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are on our big, beautiful blue planet. I think this particular show is in about 130 time zones, well, 130 countries now. So if you're out there listening, can hang out with us. If, it's easy to get books. All you have to do is write into us. If you don't hear, all of our authors and illustrators are going to give you where to find them. But if for some reason you might miss it, you can always write in. Of course, our web page is at the bottom of the page scrolling along. So you can always find information there as well. Welcome, everyone, to the show. Welcome, John. How are you doing? John's just, a week home now, right?
From Frankfurt, Germany, yeah.
Yes, he's still not even sure which countries he's in yet. He's still wondering. He's like, well, I am in the right country, right? I'm back now. Bruce, he's in Los Angeles. Yes, he's from Turkey to Los Angeles. It's a nice little trip. It was about a half a day trip, not quite a half a day.
Yeah, I'm the one that's from Frankfurt. James is the one that just came from Turkey.
Yes, James just came in from
back
Turkey.
to Tampa. So yeah, it was a bit of a hike.
Yes, that's a nice little trip too. Turkey's a very interesting. I haven't been in.
Beautiful.
I imagine it's changed considerably since I've been there. So it's been 35 years since I've been there. When I was in the service, we actually made several stops there, and it was a very interesting country. And to be honest with you, I didn't think Americans were going to be as welcome there as they were when we went. And we had a great time. We were there. We had 2 weeks the first time we went and got to just hang out and do sightseeing. And I had some friends who lived there. I still have some friends that live there. And so they took us around and showed us. It's always good when you can find somebody local to show you what's going on. You see so much more interesting stuff. James is with us today. He's got his book. We're going to be talking about that in just a few minutes. Marshall, where are you at, Marshall? New York City. Look, don't start with me today, okay? I know all you New Yorkers were calling and giving me trouble last night, so let's not start this earlier today. What do you got for us, Marshall? I'm just giving you trouble. We do authors and occasionally illustrators on the show, nothing else. You're not going to see anybody else here. And if you're talking about John's show, Writers of the Future, which comes on before the show that was just went off, the professional, he only does authors and illustrators too. And as far as Echo, she pretty much just does illustration stuff. So if you're an artsy kind of person, this is the day to be here. We're getting ready to add another author show before John's here in about a month, or maybe a little less. So it's just going to be the place to come out and hang out. Between the 5 shows that'll be here within a month, you're talking about roughly 7-8 million people you'll get access to. This show is going to give you access to right around 1.8 million. John's right around there himself. So, between those 2 shows, you're looking at, right 3.5 million. Now, I couldn't tell you what the crossover audience is, but it's not that big because we have the professional in between us, which is pulling in illustrators, and which is, what's that juice? Echo Chernick, yes. She's sassy, man. Holy crap, is she sassy? Whoo, man, she's one of my favorites, though. She's one of my favorite judges. Yes, she's a coordinated judge for Writers of the Future. So check her out. Tell us what you think. Get in there and let us know what's going on. So James, Turkey, huh, man? I mean, Lord have mercy. How long were you there?
I was there for 11 days. So
Ooh,
I
that's
went
a
over
trip.
there for believe it or not, I went over there for research for some of the book series that we're writing.
Mhm.
And so, writing the kind of topics we write, I need to try and stay abreast of what's out there and what's going on. So we went to one of the world's largest defense expos that was heavily focusing on drone technology and, robotics and things like that. So it was neat to just see what is on the horizon, what's out there, and get to talk to some of the manufacturers and people involved in that. So it was a very good learning experience. And then, we hopped down, checked out, we went and toured Gallipoli and Troy, spent some more time in the old city touring around. It's an incredible city. I didn't realize it was that big, 25 million
Yeah,
people. I mean, that's a
yeah,
huge
it's
city.
big. It is. It's big. It's like Mexico City. It's big. It's got a lot of people in it. Got a lot. There's a lot of good food down there.
Great food.
Yeah. Well, people, you have to get used to different foods, and that's why you want to know a local, because they'll take you to the right places
Mhm.
to eat. Because it's like New Orleans has great food, but if you come in as a tourist and you eat on the Riverwalk, you're not being exposed to the really good food. You're being exposed to the okay food. Now you get deep into the city and a quarter, then you're going to get to the good food. So it's always good to know somebody there.
That happened for me when I went to Sharjah. It was like, because I had a family member as I was my host, and just a world of difference, the places that he took us to as compared to the tourist traps. Yeah.
Yes.
What a
Well,
difference.
and you're not going to get ripped off money wise either. Usually it's going to be pretty good. So what's the exchange rate over there right now? It's,
Ooh, good question. I think it was like 33 lira to $1, give or take. Inflation is a little high over there, so you can get some pretty decent deals. But you're right. If you shop in like the tourist areas, it's one price. But when you go 2 or 3 blocks away from there, and you start getting to more of the local areas, the prices drop considerably.
Oh yeah,
Three, four times less.
I got a friend of mine who owns a Persian rug shop in the quarter, and he goes twice a year to Turkey to get rugs, and he brings back some beautiful stuff. And he told me, he said when he first got involved in this, he was buying for some guy, and then he was at dinner and met this family. He said, "Oh no, let me show you where to go." He pays a third of what he used to pay for it now. But
Hire a
it's
local
good.
guide. Hire
Yeah,
local guys, tours, things like that. I mean, that's what we kind of did. We did the same thing when we went to Taiwan last year for a research trip for that one too. We contacted a company. We hired a local driver who could drive us around and spoke English, and we had a fixer who would help arrange different meetings and places for us to go and see and talk with people around the country. And I mean, you spend a little bit of money on arranging and setting this up, but that's how you get the
yeah.
value out of this and see what you want to see.
And it's nice when they actually speak English that you can understand.
Yeah.
I
Google
was quite
Translate's
surprised.
amazing app though too. I love that because I could speak in English. I was on my way back, driving back with the driver from the hotel. He doesn't speak very good English, but I used this Google Translate app, so I'm speaking English. It translated it into Turkey and plays it for him. He speaks Turkish, translated it into English, and plays it back to me. And we had a conversation back and forth like that for 40 minutes. I mean, that was kind of neat.
Yeah, they got a new version of the translator coming out. It's going to clip to your lapel. It's interesting. I just seen it about 2 days ago. It's very interesting. It's much smaller than the handheld version, and they're adding I think another 6 languages to it. It's going to be like 91 or 92 languages. No, these universal translators are great people. We're in the Star Trek age with these things. Yes,
It's awesome.
they work good. You got to remember that they speak the proper language. They're not so good with certain words, but now they speak Russian and Chinese. Well, Chinese is different. There's 3 languages in China, so you have to remember that when you go over there.
Yeah.
So when you're talking to somebody, it may be translating, and the guy's looking at you like, no, I speak Mandarin.
Yeah.
But actually, to be honest with you,
where it's different in different regions of the country.
Yeah.
Where are you from? You sound different than the other Americans.
Man, and then we all have accents down here, so it's what's that rate? Oh no, wait, where are you from? England. Well, yeah, English people have accents too. Oh yes, especially if you live on the other side of the island where the Scottish and the Irish live, where you don't know what the hell they're saying half the time. Even the translators don't know what you're saying. I'm just telling you, it's rough, man. I've had several Irish folk on the network, and they've got a different way of speaking. What you get used to it once you know how to slow them down a little bit and let them talk. But John, you were in England last year, right?
I went last year, but not this year. I had to come back to the office. So I left after Frankfurt and came back straight back here after that, and didn't go to London. But I'm now up to my eyeballs planning for the upcoming Christmas parade, because we have the big Hollywood Christmas parade that we host. And I put an invitation to the Dodgers for them to participate. We'll see if they respond. They had the big parade yesterday, so they
won.
I didn't get a call back from them yet, but hopefully we'll get them.
How many times?
What's that?
How many times have the Dodgers won? Like 17 or something? 16? I mean, they've won the series.
I thought it was only 7 times, but they haven't won for they won like 4 years ago. But it was quite a series, and I kind of like. I follow. I'm so much into what I do with the podcast, reading all the different authors and stuff that I read. My extracurricular activities don't get beyond like the next author, the next book. And so that's just what I do. I'll get the highlights, the Twitter highlights on the game. Okay, here's the walk-off grand slam. Okay, good. There, I saw that. And I saw, when they won, everybody cheered, but otherwise I'm just into the next book, keeping up with it. And I'm in the middle of 3 books right now, getting ready for the next ones. But but it's really interesting with James, because I read the entire Monroe Doctrine series. And while I rarely read the horror books, they're not nearly as frightening to me as James Rosone's near future military science fiction. That stuff is terrifying to me. And the fact that you go there and you come back and say that what they're doing, the technology now, isn't science fiction. It's just crazy what it is. He just saw the stuff in action. A lot of this stuff, if it weren't for the batteries, we'd have these mech robots, which I don't even know how close that is to being, ready.
Oh,
on these mini atomic power plants and stuff that they're working on creating.
Yeah. Well, Japan already has 2 nice size of what we would call robots, probably 16 foot tall. These are models for the future, future warfare of the world. Eventually, this will all be drone warfare, which will save a lot of lives in the long run, but it'll also allow us to kill and destroy at a much bigger rate.
Yeah, it makes warfare substantially dehumanized. It makes warfare much, much more like they say, like a video game, which is kind of problematic, because you run into that dilemma of, for instance, we have drone operators that were in Afghanistan and Iraq using, and reefers, things like that for a while. Well, you would have guys who are at Creech Air Force Base outside of Las Vegas where they operate. They're in their environment. They're out there. They may have just conducted a mission and just, nailed a target that happened to be the wedding reception, for instance. That's been a target in the past, or funerals, different things like that, where they just schwacked a bunch of people. And 4 hours later, they're at a barbecue with their family in Las Vegas, or at a show on the Strip. And that's hard to process mentally, that going in that different world back and forth like that. And it's going to only get more disassociative, because you're going to have so much more drones in the process. And it's crazy seeing the new tech, because the kamikaze stuff. I don't know if you've watched some of the videos on Telegram and elsewhere where you see the drones zeroing in on whether it's Russians or Ukrainians. It's pretty brutal.
Yeah, well, we track as much as, I'm a big geek to start off with. I have advanced degrees in avionics and electronics, so I've always been a big geek. We were just tracking the Ghost Fleet, which we were actually told to stop. We got a letter, not just me, the whole damn station got a letter saying, please do not mention this anymore, because we had friends in different branches of service, and they were giving us sightings of the Ghost Fleet, because it was parked in Canada in one of the harbors up there, and they took it out on a mission. Ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know what the Ghost Fleet is, the United States has a fleet of ships that are completely drone operated. There's nobody on board at all. And then DARPA just released its new fighter, which is probably Mach 7, Mach 8. I'm not even sure how it's going to fire its missiles. The missile's going to be hypersonic, but the damn thing's going to get run over when they fire them. I'm not even sure how this works. But we watched a good reporter. We carried part of it. Part of it was classified, so we couldn't play it. But the other part we played on a network. Because I mean, I really like keeping up with the technologies, and I'm a big fan of near now science fiction. John will tell you, it's one of my favorites. It's for me, I like anybody who can write from, like, say, from 20 years out to 150 years out is people who I think are getting it right is really is something I enjoy reading, because a lot of the old sci-fi has been hitting it on the hammer. A lot of what was sci-fi 20 years ago is fact today.
Yeah. Well, that's the whole thing with Battlefield Earth. A lot of what that was, and Mission Earth, which with Jim Miller, a lot of that stuff now is coming to fruition. But the thing with your series there, James, was just how China created this this game app, this app that then everybody was doing, but it was being used by China to be able to get all the different reactions from everybody, and to be able to, okay, here's how everybody reacts in different situations, and use that as the means to how fast take it. And then the deep fake that was happening, it's like all that stuff that you see it happening right now. And so, like, oh my gosh, it's like, and that was all a prelude to
what's happening, an
attack, by China, that the prelude to World War III.
It's crazy. Like what we were doing with this, Joe, was we looked at, okay, I don't know if you've heard of this term, but it's called predictive behavioral analysis. And so back my old DoD days when I was working in Europe, I had a chance to talk with one of Professor David Upton from the Oxford Computer Science Department. He's unfortunately deceased, strangely, but he was one of the foremost leading experts in this field. And one of the things he was talking to me about was how they were working on projects with Met Police, where they would use predictive behavioral analysis to look at areas of London and determine where crimes were happening, at what times of the day they were happening, and typically by the profiles of individuals that were doing them. And what they were doing with that information was determining where they should have a larger police presence and where they can draw down, and they can move the presences around to where they're actually needed, part of that digital smart policing app. Well, from a military application, if we can identify military commanders in a foreign military and start learning all their social behaviors and how they respond to different situations, then you can start to predict how they'll respond in a military situation. An example, say in the South China Sea, right? If you understand how an American commander for an Arleigh Burke destroyer is going to respond with the rules that he's been given, with his own personality, you can press up against his edges and get him to then move back a little bit. Because he doesn't want to start a conflict or so on. When you do that over and over and over, eventually, before you realize it, we've gone from having free access through the South China Sea to now we're just moving around it because we don't want to have a confrontation. Mm-hmm. And they've been able to use that to their advantages. So when you put that in a larger scale, you can have an AI run thousands and thousands of war games against an adversary's military to determine what kind of attacks will effectively work, which ones won't, what kind of equipment your military or your industrial focus should be on building and producing those weapons necessary to defeat that specific adversary in a certain kind of warfare. And I mean, honestly, that's where AI is truly going and how it's being leveraged. The best company you can look for some of what you were talking about with the autonomous aircraft is Anduril Industries, and looking at what they've been up to and doing with I think it's Lucky Palmer's the CEO. He's he's the guy who invented Oculus Rift and sold that to Facebook back in the day. And you want to talk about an Iron Man, this dude is like the real life Iron Man. He's just insane with what he does. He's Elon Musk, maybe like 20 years younger, a tad more articulate, but just brilliant dude. They won the recent contract for the Air Force Collaborative Combat Aircraft. That's the autonomous kind of like loyal wingman type program. So stunning company. And you're right. The technology that they're coming up with is kind of scary and really neat.
Because it's cool technology, but it is scary.
Yeah.
Well, I seen just a couple of months back, I got an invite to watch the F-22. So they have two drone fighters with the F-22. They also got them for the F-35, but they're testing the F-22 first. Yeah. And they're badass. So they do it two ways. The pilot can control them from the F-22, or they can run on AI. They're working it both ways to see which is most efficient. But what they're really going to do is they're going to make it to where you can switch between, because there'll be moments when it's easier to let the AI run and defend the F-22, but there'll be some times where the pilot wants to direct or to kamikaze him for whatever reason. So they want to be able to give him the ability to do both. And the Pentagon says they want kill switches in all their AIs because they watch too many sci-fi movies, and which they're probably right. You never know what AI is going to do in 50 years from now.
You also don't know if it could potentially be hacked by an adversary too. So you need to make sure you have a way to lights out.
Yeah, because they always swear, Russia and China and the United States, you can't hack us, and they all get hacked on a regular basis. So you can't go around saying we can't hack you, because we can hack you. So it's dangerous when you start like putting ghost fleets out there that might get hacked. Now, once they get their orders, they're not supposed to be able to be communicated to. So I'm like, well, wait a minute. What happens if we want to stop them? We can't talk to them. I'm not buying that, because there's got to be somewhere along the line. If we need to talk to them, we're going to talk to them. So there's got to be an open port somewhere. And knowing those kind of things. What's that, Bruce? No, actually, America, the reason China and Russia is a little scared of America is because when it comes to gaming, the United States is number one in the amount of games they buy and play and the amount of people they have playing games. For some reason, it's not a biggest thing in China. It is big in Japan now, but they're an ally. For some reason, it's not as big in China. Maybe it's a money thing. But in the United States, every kid pretty much from 80 up grew up gaming. And nowadays the games are very advanced. There's a lot of first-person games that are very, very advanced. A lot of these people get recruited by the Air Force and the Navy to fly drones. As a matter of fact, I know at least 24 people who do drone. I've been knowing them since before Obama that have been doing drone flights. It's funny though. We did an interview with a gentleman about 3 years ago who was flying drones for Obama. He said, I never thought about how many people I killed. He said, I said, well, the drone killed him. Well, then somebody sat him down one day and said, no, you're the one telling that drone where to go. You're the one that killed him. And some of these younger people they're just not ready for that. I've noticed the Air Force and the Navy and the Army even now, because we've got autonomous tanks now, try to keep it separated, try to make it to the where, oh no, you're doing this. And then the weapon's doing the rest. Trying to keep that section out of there so that these people don't get depressed or get upset or want to quit, because some of these people are really good. I can't mention his name, but he was flying 10 drones at a time with no AI and not losing any of them. So you can imagine how many people he was killing. And no, not all of our drones we crash and blow up people. Some of them we want to bring back home because they're really expensive.
The information though too, just see what's out there.
Well, Ender's Game, the book by Orson Scott Card, that whole thing, the battle school where you got they're kids. In the movie, they're teenagers. In the book, they're children. They're like 6, 7, 8 years old, and they're trained. And they wipe an Ender as the commander wipes out virtually an entire race. And when he comes to realize what had been done with the next book, Speaker for the Dead, which was originally the first book, he's having to deal with that, like what he's actually done, because it was just a game, Ender's Game. And
you're going to see a lot of that now. Well, there was that old movie, I can't remember the name of it, where the kid got recruited by the alien for playing the game. Well, most people don't realize it, but the government does tag some games. There are some games that are out there that are being tagged, and they can watch them through your IP address. And a lot of people aren't even aware of that, which, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, is illegal, but you got to catch them doing it, and you're not going to catch them doing it. It's not, I mean, you might see, like, every now and then in the old days, I would see, like, I'd get like a million pings from Norfolk. That's trying to bring down the system is what that was. But the systems we use, being that I used to do this for the Navy, my system's a little more advanced than just the average computer system. But I mean, it would be crazy. You'd see, all of a sudden you'd get this thing come up on the screen, and my hack tracer would come up, and it'd be like, bam, bam, bam. I'm like, what the hell? And then it'd come up Norfolk, Virginia. And I'm like, oh, well, now why is the Navy trying to hack my system? And then I realized they weren't trying to hack it. They were just trying to bring it off. They were just trying to knock it offline, probably because of some topic we were talking about but I mean, I have a class 10 security clearance, which is like 10 layers above top secret. And I know what to say and what not to say. I've only been sanctioned twice, once because I mentioned the real speed of the USS Nimitz, which I was told the Nimitz was being declassified. I didn't know where they're going to keep the damn thing. And so I mentioned it on on a radio show in Washington D.C. So I got tagged for that, and then I got tagged for saying that our jets had EMP shield them in them when they didn't think we had it.
Why
I didn't know
would
it was classified.
military aircraft wouldn't be shielded from EMP? I mean, it's a military aircraft. Most of the vehicles and aircraft are shielded for that.
I remember, I remember when the guy called me. He gave me his rank and all. He said, "You can't be." I said, "What are you telling me? You don't think the Russians and the Chinese don't know our planes are EMP shields? Give me a freaking break. Everybody knows the B-52 is. I mean, that's just standard equipment. And you don't think our and and I did get in trouble for one other thing. The Navy, when I first got in there, they were replacing parts old school, like they would replace a capacitor or a resistor. And then we were all bitching, so they went to boards. Just pull a board and start. And it made it easier because you didn't have to be an electronics expert to pull a board. Slide it out, slide a new one in, go on about your way. Crank it up, make sure everything checks and go. It made it easier and faster when you had ships coming in with damage or planes coming in with damage. And I said something about that, and I got flagged for that. But nothing that cost me my clearance or anything, but they get pissy sometimes, man. They were mad when I mentioned the Nimitz real speed because it's quite a bit faster than what it says. And the guy said, "Well, how do you know?" I said, "Well, I worked on it." I said, "I was in the matter of fact, I went from E4 to lieutenant because I couldn't be in the conning tower as an enlisted person. They wouldn't let me in there." And see, that's what you call screwing up in reverse. When I got in the Navy, I went in to learn how to fly, and this one eye is screwy, so they wouldn't let me. They'd let me fly crappy things, but I wanted to fly fighters. So I got into advanced avionics and electronics, and I remember I had gone through special forces training. I was 18 months in special forces training. They sent me out to the Nimitz on a break. So while I was there, I was learning how to be a plane captain. So I took over the deck as a plane captain 9 hours a day, actually 10 hours a day, and I was loving it. Don't get me wrong, it's one of the most dangerous jobs you can ever do, but I was loving it. And one afternoon, we had a missile problem on one of the F-14s. Oh, actually, on one of the F-18s. And I went over there and fixed it. And the commander of the deck says, he said, "It would have took our guys like a week to get that fixed. What the hell?" I said, "Dude, that was easy. What are you talking about? That wasn't even a big." He said, "Joe, you analyze and fix it in like 15 minutes." He said, "I'm telling you, that's not." So then he said, "Well, we've been having a problem with one of our radars in the conning tower. Can you take a look?" And he said, "Oh, you're not." He said, I'm gonna get you in this one time. And I went and they've been trying to get this thing fixed. I think he said for like 90 days. I fixed it in like 25 minutes. He said, "That's it. I'm going to talk to the captain. You're off the deck," which, by the way, I was upset about. I wanted to stay on the deck. I was enjoying it because I was going to go back to training back in San Diego afterwards. And they're like, no, you're not going back to any of that. And I met with the captain. He said, "Well, I'm going to make you Lieutenant JG." He said, "You know what? Nah." He said, "I'm just going to make you a full lieutenant, and this is what you can do." And I came in the next day. They had all my uniforms. They had all my everything waiting for me. I was like, "Really?" He said, "I want you starting work today." I was like, okay. And then because of where I was, I had to work there in Iraq, the reactor room on the Nimitz, in the conning tower, and a few other places that were highly, highly classified. I got some outrageous security clearance. I still remember this. I went home for leave. Every friend I had, "Joe, the FBI came to my house."
Yeah, they do that when you investigate for security clearances.
Oh yeah, he's like, "What are you talking about?" He said, "Dude, they went to everybody's house." I said, "Yeah, they were checking y'all out to find out who I was because I was getting an outrageously high security clearance." He's like, "They asked all kind of questions. Did you did drugs? Did you do this? Did you do that?" He said, "I thought you were going to prison or something."
Oh, Joe, you would have loved this security clearance I had. So when I was in Germany, I was doing they do those periodic reevaluations for your clearance and stuff. And so we had to go through and do the polygraph for the last portion of it. And so there's a portion of it where they ask you some very, very pointy questions that are going to red flag you if you say the wrong answer. And so I told them, I said, "Hey, a couple questions here. You're going to ask me if I have had any contact or know any foreign terrorists or extremists or know of any plots against the United States, things like that. I need to let you know in advance I'm going to have to answer yes to those questions because of my former job. Because I used to work as an interrogator, and so I was face to face with these guys. That was my job, was sit and interrogate these Al Qaeda prisoners as we capture them in Iraq. And so, yeah, I knew these guys. I was their interrogator talking with them, and I would hear about the attacks that they're planning, this and that, because that was my job, was get the intel, collect it, write it up, put it in the reports, and then let the wider intelligence community evaluate that, look at that, see if it's corroborating other intelligence reports out there, to see if we can get more 2 or 3 people saying the same thing, so to speak, that are in different regions, different areas. Then you start to go, okay, we have a legit threat, or we have something here that's actually going to happen because we have multiple sources telling us the same thing. And so it's kind of funny because you tell them you're going to have to answer yes to these, and they all like, really? Wow, I've never had anyone say that before, and but I'm not gonna. You don't want to lie because they will find out, and when they do, then you get your clearance yanked. So funny stuff. Oh, we lost your mic there. You lost your audio.
Sorry, I had turned it off for a second. I was hollering at somebody. It's funny. I remember, I've been out in the Navy for a while now. I own a construction company. And during Katrina, I had a guy. He was a forensic expert for the FBI. We were remodeling his house. I come in his house one day. And he looks over. He said, "Joe, how come the FBI checks on you every 4 years?" I said, "I can't tell you." And he's like, "What do you do?" I said, "I don't do anything anymore." I said, "It's what I used to do." And I said, "They do a background check on me every 4 years. Until I die, they will do a background check on me every 4 years." And I said, it's not like I know all that. I mean, I keep up with as much as I can that I can get my fingers into. And because the clearance is so high, I do get pervy information. I can't share information, but I can get my fingers on it. But they do check every 4 years, and they will go through. It's funny.
Social media's got to make that job a nightmare. That's all I can say.
Oh, yeah, because they go through everything. Because I had gotten a letter about 8 years ago about something I had said on one of the radio shows. Now, you have to realize I've been doing radio for 25 years. You know how many hours of radio we're talking about? 3-4 shows a week, 2 to 4 hours a show. That's a lot of audio to go through. So I'm figuring maybe they're using something like Greenland, something, some keyword program maybe to help speed it along. And he said, "Oh, no, we listen." I said, "You got to be kidding me, man." He said, "No, they listen kind of at high speed, at fast." But he said, "They do listen." I'm like, I don't want that job. But I'm like, I didn't get that job.
Hey guys, probably automating most of it, just looking for keyword searches and such.
Well, it was funny because when I was on the Nimitz, they were already playing around with drone technology, and we had already had microchips. So we were running 4 cores before, civilians even got single cores. When I was in the Navy, nobody really. I think they were still running DOS in civilian life. It wasn't even Windows 3.0 yet. And because when I got out, they were running Windows 3.0, which I was laughing my ass off about. And I remember I got on this computer at home. I bought one. I'm like, what is this hunk of? I'm like, man, it was making me crazy. It was, it had a barefoot drive, and it was 2 gig drive with a floppy disk in it. I'm like, But I remember my very first assignment was at the AFI station in New Orleans, and they were still using reel-to-reel and punch card. And this is an 84, man. I was like, get out of here. This was a 7-story building, at least 600,000 square feet. Everything in the floor and the ceiling was computer. It was a nightmare to find anything that went wrong. It was a nightmare. And I remember when they called us, I think 300 of us in there to come in and install all the new all the desktop computers and put them in network. And he was like, thank God. And they were junk. They were junk. They were 250 megahertz. People, and I hate to tell you this, people, the IRS is still running 450 to 650 megahertz computers. The smallest computer in this room right now, where this computer system is, where we're sitting for the station, is 24 cores with 250 gigs of RAM and about 14 terabytes of memory. So it's a big change from when I started out. And honestly, most people don't need that kind of stuff. I do, but most people don't. I like fast computers. I don't want to have to see around. So, that's another thing about near now things. I was talking with a friend of mine who's trying to write a book about near future. And he said, I can't. He said, I can visualize technologies and weapons and planes and boats. He said, but I can't for some reason visualize where the computer is going. He said, I've run about quantum core. He said, I've run about the carbon chip. He said, but I can't get it in my head what we're going to be looking at as a computer in 50 years. And I said, well, it's going to be way different than what we're running now. The carbon chip alone, its base chip is 150 megahertz, and it doesn't get hot. and you can grow the damn thing. You know, the biggest problem Japan's having with that chip, right? They can't write software for it. They don't know how to figure out how to write software for it. Nothing wants to work with it. I don't know. And there's a couple other new designs out there that haven't quite got into the thing yet, but a 24 core, 36 core. I mean, do you realize we went to the moon on what? Half a core? We didn't even really have a core. It wasn't even really a core back then, people.
Yeah, crazy.
It was the average person in this country has 100 times the computing power that NASA put people on the moon with. Yes, and why haven't we been back? That's what y'all should ask. Why haven't we been back? Maybe because it's boring. So, I mean, you enjoy writing near now, huh?
I love it. I like it. I think it's awesome stuff. I got into it as PTSD therapy for me, and oddly, it turned into a career that I've been able to support my family with and continue writing and selling books. So I do it 100% myself. Fully self-published. Been doing that for almost 10 years now.
What's really great too about his story, Joe, is that he did his homework. He did his research to find out a type of story they liked, and he found a hole. Go ahead and tell about that. That's really amazing, James.
Yeah. So if you want to write, I mean, there's a difference between being a hobbyist and being a writer who's actually going to support your family and pay your bills. You got to approach it like a business. And so like any business, your book is the product and the readers are your consumers. Readers are hungry for certain types and kinds of books. That's what they gravitate towards and what they crave. So for me, the books that I enjoyed reading when I was growing up, I really enjoyed reading Tom Clancy's Red Storm Rising. I thought it was a great book on a very large scale conflict. I enjoyed reading Harold Coyle's Team Yankee, where it was a small platoon of tanks in a direct battle engagement like that. I could not for the life of me find a lot of newer books written in that style and that theme. And so I started thinking to myself, well, heck, man, my VA rep was, my counselor there was saying, write a book that you want to read that nobody's writing. And that was her way of sending me down a rabbit trail to keep my mind focused on positive, good things instead of, going down the bad route. So that's what I started doing. I said, all right, well, I'm going to write those style and kinds of books and do that using the experience I have from my time in Iraq, as well as my time working, as a contractor, staff officer at U.S. European Command and a few of the other commands that I've been at. And we started crafting different books. And the first few books, they didn't sell very much. I made $87 my first month with it being out there. But I was like, hey, $87. That means a few people actually found this interesting.
Yeah.
And so I just kept at it. And eventually I decided if I can work this many hours, 60 plus hours a week or whatever for a private company, I can work that many hours writing books. And that's what we did. So we created this 6-book series, started out ironically.
He and his wife, Miranda.
Yeah. Yeah. My wife writes with me. So it's a total team effort.
It's so cool. His story is so cool.
So which is great. You get to work with your spouse and build a business together. It can pass down to our kids. So we wrote the first book over the summer called Battlefield Ukraine, about basically the Russians invading and going in there, just like they did in 2022 here.
So you wrote it when?
Yeah, I wrote that back in the summer of 2017. Because I was at U.S. European Command at the time when Maidan was kicking off and going on in the fall of 13, and then we had the coup in 2014. So I kind of knew what was kind of going on, that whole involvement, where things were kind of headed. So I looked at it and said, after the election in 2016, I said, all right, what are the most likely conflicts over the next 5 to 7 years or 5 to 9 years? And basically said it's going to be Ukraine, Korea, Taiwan, the Pacific. And then to round off the series, we wrapped it into Russia and China, basically. And that was it. That was the genesis of our whole writing career. What took off was that particular series. And then each one since then has just been looking at the world and essentially writing cautionary tales, if you will, of what things could happen, how things could happen, what the consequences might be. And Lord willing, hopefully we can avoid them by having seen them played out in a fictional series and go, wow, great, entertaining, cool series. Thank God it's fiction. And I sure as heck don't want this to come true. Maybe we should try and figure out how to make sure that doesn't happen. That's how I approach the writing game and do that. And again, it's just, creating an entertaining story. But again, if you can teach and educate, entertain and educate at the same time, that's a win-win. And
That's
so
a win-win.
what we try to do with all of our book series is show people war is not something romantic and to be fantasized about and talk about it in glowing terms. That's a brutal, ugly, brutal thing that happens. And sometimes it's absolutely necessary and it needs to happen. And sometimes it happens on accident, or it happens because we were unwilling to just listen to the other side and take in their considerations and ask ourselves, do they have a legitimate gripe? Is there something we can do to try to negotiate this and find a common ground and solution to avoid these conflicts? Sometimes you can. Sometimes you can't. Sometimes, you're going to have to fight. You got to accept that good people have to die sometimes to defend what you believe is valuable and worth defending. And that's our country. If we have to defend our people, we also have to look out and realize that we're not an island to ourselves. We have allies and we have friends, and we should do what we can to make sure that collectively we are working together, not us being the global cop, but also us not putting our heads in the sand and allowing a vacuum to come in, because that's when
and we've kind of let a little vacuum get in there for a little while. So
we have, unfortunately, a little bit.
Yeah, it's. I mean, we'll see what happens after this election. Who will do what?
Yeah.
Somebody asked me the other day. They were getting all nervous about North Korea. I said there are troops in Russia. I said now they haven't actually got into the Ukraine yet. I said when they do, I said I don't know what's going to happen. Germany and Poland have already said if they put troops there, they're going to put troops in the Ukraine. NATO said they may put troops in the Ukraine. The United States needs to stay out of this for as long as they can. And if all of these people are putting
strategy remained on China and Taiwan,
that's right.
That is the existential threat to us. If we lose
somebody asked me,
Taiwan, that's game over for our industry. Until we have been able to replicate these highly advanced chip productions in the United States or elsewhere, which you can have the factory built. We're almost done with some of those things. But what we don't have is we don't have the pipeline of workers who are educated to build those types of materials, because we haven't done it in 30 years. It's not to say we can't. It's going to take a time to build that pipeline. And if we lose access to those advanced semiconductors, I mean, that's game over for our industry, for our economy and our weapons production, our own military, our own national security. That is an existential threat to us.
Yes, it is, because it allows China to jump up 20 years in technologies.
Huge.
Right now, that's one of the things that separates us. Yeah, it separates us because of that. It's what we're talking about, ladies and gentlemen, is these chips we're talking about run the F-22, the F-35. They run some
iPhone,
advanced things, iPhone. They run everything that's important to us that we need on a daily basis. These are very advanced chips. We gave this deal to Taiwan because Taiwan, frankly, does a better job at producing them than we do.
Yeah.
They're
cheaper. They're more effective and cheaper.
We're going to bring them back to the United States, but it's still going to be a good decade before we're really back to producing them the way we need to. And by doing this, we're screwing over one of our allies because we take a manufacturing away from. I mean, maybe we'll give them something else. Because it is risky.
Joint ventures where it's basically going to be TMC over here in the United States. So they'll have their advanced factories there, but they'll have another version of it here in the U.S. So it'll still be, they'll still be in the loop.
What's TMC?
It's a Taiwan chip manufacturer, something like that.
Yeah, something.
It's several of these companies there that are that were part of the originally founding conglomeration, so to speak, of building those chip manufacturers. And so there's several of them there. I have to pull it up to get the exact name of them all. I've been focusing on another book series and the stuff we were doing in Turkey, not so much on the Taiwan series, but that series is under construction. We're working on it. It should be coming out hopefully in the fall this next year, rolling into the spring. And so we've got 3 series in the hopper right now. I'm kind of working all 3 of them.
So listeners, I'm going to give you a little piece of classified information. Nothing that's going to get me in trouble because you can find it. So the main 3 chips manufacturers over there that build only chips for our weapons, inside the factories, there are 2 kiloton tactical nukes on the ground. So if China attacks, they're supposed to detonate those 3 factories and eliminate everything, the chips, how we make them, the whole 9 yards. We cannot let China have those chips. It will bring them too close in technology to us. It's one of the things that makes the F-22 the plane it is versus that crappy thing the Chinese are flying right now. I mean, they keep saying they're Generation 5. No, those planes are barely Generation 4. And even their stealth planes, they say, oh, they're stealth. No, you can see them smoke stream coming for 60 miles. It's one of those things that we can't allow to happen to our country. It's not just us, people. We give these things to our allies. You know, we don't give them the chip, but we give them the plane and sell them the parts. It's something we cannot let fall in the Chinese hands. It's one of the few things that America is actually really, really strict on. And thank God they are, because it would make such a difference to the Chinese to have those chips. What I don't understand about China is China just needs to just chill. If China would disarm itself and go back to just being a global producer, everybody would love them, and they would be the wealthiest country in no time at all.
He wants a legacy. He wants to be the man who basically ended their civil war, which is what Taiwan and them had. And so he wants to be the one who basically ended that, brought the conflict to a conclusion, and reunited the country. And what they don't realize is that, Taiwan's been independent for a very long time. And at this point, they've had multiple generations of people who have known independence, who've been free of the CCP, and they don't really want to go back to that. They don't want to go over there. They can freely cross and see what it's like. It's a night day difference between the two countries. And so as the older generation starts, dying off, the young kids don't want to go that route. They want to be independent.
They want to be free.
Wants to build a legacy. He's got there for a third term, and he wants a legacy. And I think when leaders like that tell you, here's my plan, here's what I want to do, we should kind of listen to that. And he's told his military, whether the order is given or not, he's given them the deadline of 2027. And whether he gives that order or not is to be seen. But he's got to tell the military to be ready, and it could be even earlier. Yeah,
it could be earlier. But he's got another problem. Hong Kong, which we don't see in American news often because China blocks it. There's a lot of unrest in Hong Kong. They've been free for too long. They don't like being communist. They want to be free again. And what they're scared of, if China puts all of its forces over there to protect itself and to go take Taiwan, Hong Kong might break away. And the U.S. and the U.K. have already said if Hong Kong breaks away for freedom, we'll step in and help them. So China's in a precarious situation. We've already told Taiwan we would protect them. So China now knows attacking Taiwan's like attacking the United States. Do you want to start that war? Because China knows it can't win that war. It's not a winnable war for them. It's not really a winnable war for us either. It is a winnable war for us in some ways, but in some ways it's not. This is a really precarious situation for everybody involved. And China wants to be the world thing. And they were doing real good until they got stupid with the military, and Trump said, oh, no, we're going to put an end to this, and just started tariff them out of creation. So instead of having this big, huge $30 or $40 trillion economy they were going to get up to, now I think they're going to make 8 or 11 trillion this year. And that's just nowhere near competing with the United States or the EU or anything. Right now, I'd have to go look to be sure, but I think between the EU and the United States, we control almost 90 trillion of the world's economy. It's almost impossible to fight against that. I mean, if EU cuts off China, the United States cuts off China, they're a third world country again.
There's a few things they can cut off of us, so that would cripple us pretty hard too right now. Pharmaceuticals is a really big one right now.
Yeah, that's a big one. That's a big one.
Pharmaceutical inputs all come from China.
Well, we've been switching that to Canada, though, lately. A lot of that stuff's been coming out of Canada. Pfizer said that it's going to pretty much only take drugs from Canada anymore. And hopefully. I know Moderna's headed. Yeah. Well, first, Canada's got to get there to get to that production level. I mean, they do send us drugs already, but they're not to the production level that China's at. So China's mass producing, and that's another thing. In the old days, the United States could mass produce at an ungodly rate. Well, China's there now. We'd have to get back into the industry.
That's the issue. Is do you want to pay a lower price, or do you want to pay a price that would have it produced by America? Which means you're going to pay a higher price because the wages are higher, benefits, everything else like that compared to lower wages, But the real thing, if you want to watch like timelines of when things could potentially happen with Taiwan, watch and see wait until there's two specific pipelines that are under construction right now. There's one going through the Russian Central Siberian area down through Mongolia, connecting into Inner Mongolia and China. And then there's another one connecting from the Sakhalin Islands in the Russian Far East through into Manchuria. So when those pipelines are finished and built, the lion's share of their energy, which will be coming from Russia, from those areas, won't be going through the Malacca Straits, which is their choke point right now. So that little pinch spot right there with Singapore, that right there, you can pinch that off. You've totally tanked China's all their energy that moves through there. But once they get the overland pipeline set, game, set, match, they don't need that anymore.
But America just proved to the world pipelines are easy to take out when we just cracked that out. Everybody blamed Russia for taking that pipeline out.
I think we did that pipeline.
That was us. There's no way around who did that pipeline.
There's very few countries who have that capability to do that. We have to be.
I was laughing.
It's also a thing where we said openly, we would do this. Like we said, like Biden said this several times, we would handle this and do this if they did X, Y, or Z. Well, they did that, and then lo and behold, the pipeline blows up. It's like, whoa, we kind of let the cat out of the bag and said we would do it anyway. So blame on someone else doesn't really work.
Yeah, and it was funny to me when I first heard the Russia thing. I said, wait, no, that was us. That's our technology. I'm like, no, Russia didn't do that, because I didn't think Russia would want to escalate anything. And if it really would have been proven it was them, it might have escalated something. Now, finding out it was us, everybody was going to bitch, but nothing was going to happen.
But here's the kicker. Like, what about Germany? I mean, this was a German infrastructure project that they partnered with the Russians on. This was a multi-billion-dollar German infrastructure problem, and they're a NATO ally of ours.
Yeah. But Trump warned them when he was president. He said, look, stop buying oil from the Soviet Union. Stop. I mean, from Russia. He said, you're supplying money to our enemies. Stop it.
Yep.
And so they didn't listen. So Joe Biden stopped it. It's funny how they hate each other, but the two presidents kind of work together.
Policies. Yeah. All I care about
I know we're coming close to the end of this first one here.
We got about 7 minutes.
I'm just curious, since this is the Authors Quill, and a lot of people listen to this stuff are also aspiring writers, and people like to listen. So and want to become writers. Some of the stuff what you did, James, because you've been a guest on the Writers of the Future podcast as well a couple of times, and we just connected up again a few months ago when we were in at Tampa Comic Con. You were there, but a lot of what we do with Writers of the Future is to provide that helping hand for aspiring writers, which is part of what we why I was so interested to talk to you. That was in that contest created by Elmer Hubbard back in 1983. But now, for someone that wants to be able to get a start in writing, because you're one of the top 100 Amazon writers in military science fiction.
Yeah, well, in thrillers and science fiction generally. I mean, we've
so
over 90
a little bit
like
how you accomplish that, how you built, because you've got nobody else I've talked to has the game plan that you have and what you've done, because you sell strictly only through Amazon.
Unfortunately, a little bit. Yeah, we're trying to work a little bit more direct sales, but yes, you're right.
But you're almost up to 7-figure author now. So annually, you're close to being 7-figure author. So, if you don't mind, Joe, James, just a little bit of what you've done and how you built it up, and what's your game plan and how you do it.
Again, the biggest thing is you've got to remember this is a business. So you need to approach it like a business, like you would any other type of business venture you want to start up. You got to understand you're also going to be putting in a lot of hours and working on this. So you need to look at your schedule, realize you have 24 hours in a day. How do you want to break that 24 hours down? How do you want to use that? How many do you need for sleep, family, and then work? And it involves a lot of research, understanding your market, your niche that you want to write in. If you want to write romance, what kind of romance? Dive down into the details of the specific kind of writing you want to do, and then look for gaps. Find the kind of book you enjoy, that you think others enjoy, others enjoy, and see if it's being produced. If it's not, then you fill in the gap, and you can seize that opportunity, and you can do very well for yourself. If it is being produced, ask yourself, is there enough of it being produced? Is it overproduced? And then what is the quality that's being produced? And if there's not a lot of it, but There is some, at least there's a market for it, for one. But now you can step in there and you can fill in the gap to expand more, and hopefully, again, find new angles and ways to make it more engaging, attract more readers, and never don't forget about the quality of the story. At the end of the day, anyone can sell book one. What is very, very difficult to do is to sell that second, third, fourth book, or even draw them even further into a series. That's when it really comes down to the craft and not losing sight that it has to be a good story at the end of the day, because readers have finite time and finite resources. And if you're asking them to give you some of that time and some of their resources, you need to deliver on a good story. You need to be able to provide them with that break from reality and life, and give them that entertainment that they're looking for, that story, that whatever it is they're looking for. That's your job. You're a writer. This is what you're supposed to provide them with. And that's your focus. This is a full-time job. So if that's your gig, I mean, this is what we do. This is what we do. People say, how can you sit down and write a 550-page book every 2.5, 3 months? I say, well, it's my full-time job. I sit here, I work, I do this 8 to 10 hours a day, often 6 times a week. This is what I do. And part of making this a long-term career is putting in a lot of the hours up front, where you build out your portfolio. Because when you have 4, 5, 6 series of books that are complete, series anywhere from 4 to 12 books or so, when these things are complete, as long as you're continuing a little bit of advertising on them, they're going to continue to generate residual revenue for you. And that's how you turn this into a successful, thriving business that you can continue to do for a very long time. And then you've got the different language translations. You've got the audio books. It's a wide world. There's 8 billion people out there. I'm sure there are more than a few thousand or a few 100,000 who would love to read the story that's cooking up in your head, or the idea that you have. And there's no reason not to get into it. It's great. If nothing else, it's great therapy just to get it out of your head, get it onto paper. And it can be a heck of a lot of fun, because you're world building. You're creating the world you want to see or live in, or what you think is out there, or just telling a great story. It's fun. We all have a story in us. And it's just a matter of just sitting down and
we gotta get you to put this on audiobooks, man. It's I don't get time to read anymore between the 3 jobs I have.
Oh, audio, yeah. I have all my stuff in audio. You got to do the audio stuff, even if you can't fully afford it. Amazon has their KDP beta program now, where they'll let you do even like an AI audio. There's 11 labs. There's different ways to get out there.
That's good. John, I couldn't hear you. What were you saying? You mute or something?
Oh yeah. I did, because I had a siren going by me behind me. I'm right here right behind me is Hollywood Boulevard.
Yes,
cool.
Yeah. I got the Chinese theater about 50 yards to the right of me.
Great location.
Yeah.
We'll get some good food. James, I'm going to invite you on news on the flip side. So we'll talk about the books, because I'll let everybody know you're an author.
Sure.
Lots of things we can cross, and half the network as ex-military. And half of them were in some kind of security or something along the way.
Yeah.
Well, it was weird how we all met.
Yeah, I've wanted to connect up you with James, because he's just like, it's just.
Well, James is right up my alley. I mean, it's stuff that I love, and I always love near now science fiction to start off with. But what we've been talking about on other things is, plus, like, anytime I can find out anything about drone stuff. I mean, I bug the hell out of Space Command all the time about what's going on over there, because I found out, which hopefully this isn't classified, but I found out that Space Command runs everything now.
Yeah.
So they run DARPA. They took DARPA over. The Navy and the Air Force space programs cannot do anything without Space Command's permission. Even NASA's got to tell them what's going on. I was kind of like, wow, they just, when I first heard Space Command, I thought it was going to be
space. They run all satellites. They've got control of all that. That's their domain. Is everything?
I am waiting for Elon to come out as that guy from Moonraker, become the evil guy. He keeps saying he wants to retire on Mars. I'm just waiting. He's going to go to Mars, and all of a sudden the 300,000 satellites he's got in space is going to wipe out the planet.
Talk about a clever guy, though, man. I'll tell you, Musk has got to be the cleverest guy out there. So
he's brilliant.
Going to Mars, right? He needs to have solar panels that can function and work out there, and batteries that are going to make it viable for Optimus, for the robot, right? So what do? You invent solar, you create Solar City, and then roll it into Tesla. You have electric vehicles. You get the government and all kinds of other places to fund your R&D to create these battery packs that can be continually getting smaller and better and store more power. And then to finance it all, you get into the low orbit rocket stuff. You make a reusable rocket. You start launching satellites up there. You take over the whole business because nobody can do it for cheaper than he can or as effective. Then you create the internet with Starlink all over the place. Starlink is making huge sums of money now, and that's only going to grow. And it self-finances the Mars mission, which is totally crazy. So in 2 years, they're launching the starships out there, packed to the gills with Optimus robots, 3D printing machines, and all the materials they're going to need to land on Mars, build the habitats and the structures before humans ever get there. And then in 2020, was it? So 2026 is when the first mission goes. 2028 is when the manned mission will go. So when they arrive 2 years after the first one launches, they're going to arrive to a base camp that's already been largely built, ready for them, and all these kinds of pre-positioned supplies and cargo will all be waiting for them when they arrive there. Brilliant strategy and way to go about doing it, because Optimus, the robots, don't need any of the life support initially. So they're going to build all that infrastructure before humans even get there. That's going to be incredible.
You know, and I used to bitch all the time. I didn't think all the water evaporated on Mars. I thought it was frozen under the dirt. Well, guess what they found the other day? A huge, monstrous lake full of fresh water. It's frozen, but it's all fresh water, so it's plenty enough.
But it's fuel. It's fuel, and it's going to propel the future. Same thing with the moon, how they plan to turn the moon essentially into like a refueling station.
I was surprised to find that. Well, moon is full of helium-3 too, which is really interesting.
Big time, huge resource.
So, and then of course they found water now on the moon. I should say ice, but way more than they thought was up there. Way more than they thought was up there. So the more, and then of course now we found out that Pluto is basically half a frozen good ice, and now we think 2 of the ice moons out there have life on them. It's getting a little crazy out there. But anyway, I know we got Joe's getting ready to get in with the show, but James, we'll have to get you on. We'll bring you on news on the flip side. We'll talk, because it's a 3-hour show, so we can talk as much as we want. And you can stay as what you want. We always tell people to come on. They don't have to do the whole for 3 hours, but we bring them on there. Last night it was a 5-hour show. So, well, we're in political season right now, and we're just trying to. And what happens is they started off with abortion. The next thing I knew, the phone lines were just.
Oh man.
So we let that go for about a half hour, and then it got into men's rights, and that went for like 20 minutes. And I was like, okay, guys, we came here to talk about the election. Let's talk about
other things.
And then we finally got an election, but we didn't get to the polls, because we do the polls every Friday night. We do an hour's worth of all the different big polling companies. What surprised me was 538, which was pretty much all red when Biden was running. And then when Harris got in, the company switched over to different polling people, all blue polling companies. So every time you seen it, Harris was ahead. But all of a sudden now you're seeing even in all blue, a lot of it's red now. And then Nat Silver, the guy who used to own it because ABC owns it now, came out the other day and said, "Oh no, it's going to be a landslide for Trump." I'm like, "Oh shit."
We'll see. I'll just be glad when it's done. But my big concern about it all is that neither side's going to accept the results. You know, the Dems.
And I agree. I agree with you. And somebody asked me the other day, why don't I give out who I'm going to vote for on air? I said, because I have a big audience. Dangerous. Yes, and I don't want to isolate my audience. I said some weeks I may be pro-Trump, some weeks I may be pro-Harris, some weeks I might be, oh my God, I'm moving to Mars with Elon. You just never know where I'm going to go with it. And I don't feel comfortable with either candidates for me. So we'll just see what happens, where it goes. But I see Joe down. He's all patiently waiting, being a good guy down there. Let's drag him up here with us. Hey there, Mr. Davis. How you doing, man?
Hey, Joe.
James, you can hang out or go or whatever you feel like. Man, it was a great talk.
How we doing?
We'll definitely. I'll get Carmen to get in touch with you. So, how you doing there, James? James, Joe, James.
Thank you very much, James. Good talking to you there.
Yeah, man. I'll drop out and leave you guys there.
Okay, you do it. Thanks again.
Thanks,
James. How you doing, man? Mr. Davis there.
Hey there. How are you guys?
I looked down and it said broadcast journalist. I thought it said breakfast journalist. I was like, what the hell is a breakfast?
That's the same thing, really, isn't it?
Yeah. Tells you I need to clean my glass. Or something. So what kind of writing do you like to do?
Right. What kind of writing do I like to do?
Yeah, I mean, what genre is what I should
boy,
say.
that's a hard question. I mean, my favorite. We probably should start with maybe my favorite to read. I suppose that's probably better.
Yeah, we got into that.
And you got. Sorry, I'm just getting a little balance there. You guys already know I obviously love science fiction. That's probably my favorite, especially the old pulps, really old stuff. I'm way into the, I go back to, authors from the 40s and 50s. That's kind of my favorite.
Because there's some good stuff back there.
Well, I'll just bring up in terms of a proper introduction for Joe. I'll do that, and then he can pick back up there.
Yeah,
we originally met like we established in the last podcast a few weeks ago. That went up probably about when we first came out with the Stories from the Golden Age. That was the old science fiction fantasy stuff that he watched, that he read, and then we also had Battlefield Earth. But Joe was also an Olympian. He was an Olympic in because he lives up there in Park City, and so where he was up there with that, and in the I always call it the luge. It's not the luge. It's the
skeleton. Yeah,
skeleton. So he was an Olympian with that, and then he became a broadcaster for sports TV on the Olympics. That's how he was hired to actually be able to do it, to cover that. And I've done many interviews with him as a host on TV over the course of like a decade, and we talked about all types of science fiction and fantasy and whatnot. And then he's written a lot of media, and he's one thing too that I'm still going to take advantage of this next hour to keep on pounding in. Like he's really good at specifically in sports on handling PR when you get a sportsman who like is found in the wrong bed or does the wrong thing. Like how do you handle bad things? He's brilliant at how to handle doing media interviews and how do you deal with that stuff. And I still think he's got an amazing niche in that he could do and just like make amazing hay on that one there. But anyway, Joe's been he's been a great friend for, every time I went to Salt Lake City Fan X, I come in and go to his TV show in Park City TV I have to get up at 5:30 to drive up there from Salt Lake City. But we went up there, and Emily and I would do his Mountain Morning Show. Is that what it was called?
Yeah, that was what it was called on Park City Television, which was part of the Outside Network, which is part of Outside Magazine and all of that fun stuff. Yeah.
And then he decided he didn't really agree with their political ambitions and controlled messaging. So he broke out on his own, and he's now active military in reserve, right? Air Force Reserve?
Yeah. So Air National Guard. And I've been serving with them for since 1988, which is a long time.
Wow. Yeah. It's a long.
Yeah. I've had several different jobs with them, and the most recent about 12 years ago as I switched to public affairs, which kind of matched up with the career path that I was on with journalism. Because I, kind of got, it was interesting. I sort of got sucked into a world my dad was pretty involved in, which is, really everything from, really more the entertainment side of television. He was a writer for Jay Leno.
Good job.
So I was trying to avoid his career path, but
that's a good job though, Leno.
Yeah. When you don't make the skeleton team by, I made the U.S. team, but I didn't make the Olympic team by about 0.2 of a second to a guy who ultimately won the gold medal. And a guy who I did have to do PR for later, ironically.
Life's ironic like that.
Some things he did. But at any rate, it was something I was trying to really stay out of. And they come to you and say, hey, we understand you won't be in the Olympics. I'm like, yeah, thanks. That's like 10 minutes ago I found out.
Yeah, thank you very much.
And they said, but you already have time off work, right? I'm like, yeah. And everybody likes you. You know all the athletes, right? I'm like, yeah.
You're on TV right now.
Games for us. And I'm like, well, all right. So all of a sudden I was in that world. And, the Olympics kind of come and go. It's fast. It's furious. It's crazy. And I thought when it was over with, I was done. And my sister, who is kind of in the entertainment world also, she's a dancer in Siegfried and Roy's show for the entire run. And she said, my headhunter is looking for somebody for ESPN. And the next thing I knew, I was in New York, like literally the next day for an interview. And you go through a bunch of interviews with them, right?
Yeah.
Because it's Disney, and you sign an awful lot of things that say I won't do anything wrong. So I will never have to do PR for me, right?
Disney doesn't play around with that stuff,
right? It's Disney. You don't mess with Disney.
Mm-mm.
And anyway, the next thing you know, I was on the road with them for 4 or 5, actually almost 6 years. So I did sideline reporting for them, and then for CBS Sports, and then came home to do local television, kind of like John was talking about with a local TV station. They got bought by a big conglomerate that wanted me to read prepared statements, and I'm like, I'm not doing that.
I can't do that. Okay.
Yeah, and I'm a news guy, and I was already working for a larger station. It was an NBC affiliate. They said, "Hey, what are you doing with this challenge you have up at your job?" And I'm sorry that's doing that to you guys. And I said, "Well, I left," and they said, "Good, because we would have had to let you go because of your journalistic integrity would be in question." So. Anyway, long story short is now I work for them. It's a 50,000 watt clear channel radio station, television station, newspaper, magazine. They've got everything. And because of my time in the Air Force, I'm kind of qualified to do all of them. So really, really can work in any one of their facets, which is really fun. That's what makes it exciting. So yeah, that's me.
Well, you're on TV right now. We have Roku television, and we just started running the test on Amazon TV today. It's the first time we've actually run it. And then, of course, there's all the videos, all the whole. Rumble actually is growing pretty fast.
You've got that huge following from Ancient Aliens, Joe. So
yes. Oh, man, speaking of that, I was just asked to be on them in Netflix just the other day.
Yeah.
Netflix is, I don't know about Netflix is weird. They do things so ass backwards. Because I've been on Discovery and History too, but I mean,
yeah.
They Netflix, I love y'all. I'm not hating on y'all.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't see anything bad about Netflix. Are you kidding me?
No. I mean, they just
I love Netflix.
It's like they start at the end and work to the beginning or something, but they're really good. I don't want to hate on it. It was funny because real quick, I'll tell the story real quick. So I was in LA for Ancient Aliens. And this is before I met John. Hey Joe, how you doing? So I'm in LA. So they gave me my own personal little girl who took me around and showed me around and run me around. I was there for 5 days, and I stayed at Wilmington. And she says, well, there's a party, a big gala party. You want to go? And I said, she got a suit. I said, yeah, I always bring 2 or 3 suits with me. I said, sure, I'll go. And while I was there, I met this guy, and we would talk, and he was telling me about the series he was doing. I said, well, man, I told him who I was. And he's like, would you like to audition? He said, tomorrow around 10. I said, at 10, I'll be on an airplane headed home. I said, so
right.
He said, can you come at 6:30? I'm like, 6:30? I said, sure, I'll give it a try. So I went in, and he really liked it. They called me about a week later, signed it up. 3 weeks after that, we got COVID. Hit.
Yeah.
So it might have been 3 months, but it was COVID hit. I figured, okay, it's over. Didn't hear nothing from them. And I was in LA, I think the 3rd time with John and them, and I got a phone call saying, hey, we want to pick it back up. So their thing was to do 7. We did 7 shows and 7 shows. So we've got 14 out. They were on for a while. So what they do is they put them up. I think he said they put them up for 8 or 10 months, and then they take them down. And then when the next part, we're working on part 2 right now, or season 2 right now. Those will go up and they'll stay up for about a year. And then if everybody likes it, I get a big raise and we'll do season 3. And he said, but they won't. He said they won't leave them up until it shows in syndication. He said, we'll leave them up for a year, but then we're going to take them down. So what are y'all having space problems? Man, I said, I do computer work, right? Just in case I need some help with this. He's like, no. He says, it's just the way Netflix does things. And I was like, well, that's fine. That's fine. And we've gotten a lot of good feedback, but I'm basically I'm just like a high paid narrator is what I am.
That's the best job. I keep telling John, that's all I really want to do is narrate the books that he represents. All I want, just want to be the narrator.
That's all I do. I just narrate.
Best job right there.
But they do great reenactment stuff. I got to give them credit. I mean, they really do great reenactment stuff. And because of them, because of a deal I did with them for something else, that's how I got on History Channel. And Discovery just called me one day and says, do you believe in aliens? I said, I don't believe in anything. He said, well, I heard you're the #1 researcher in the field. I said, I am. He said, well, you have to believe. I said, no, this isn't about God. We're not talking religion. I said, you either know or you don't. There's no in between. There's no believe it. I said, you either know there's something out there that's besides us or there's not. I said, just figure it out. And the guy said, well, I really like the way you said that. And then we did some we did what are the chances of life in the universe, which is phenomenal.
Right.
And then we did what are the chances of something visiting our planet. And we brought this colonel on. He said, "Oh yeah, they're definitely here. This guy's still in the military." I said, "You should never say that. You're going to get fired."
Yeah, no kidding.
He said, no, that's fine. They won't have no day. He got fired. They fired his ass. Like, boom, man. I mean, he called me like 6 months later. They fired him. I mean, he was gone. Oh,
Wow.
yeah, she can get fired from the military. Whoever sent me that. Oh, yeah, they can fire you. When you're a commissioned officer, you can be fired, unfortunately. Enlisted people can't be fired. They have to be drummed out, but officers can be fired. Yes, it's weird how that works. But all that stuff is interesting. You know, it's fun. So, you know, we started doing TV by accident. Roku contacted us and said, "We really like what you do." And so they picked us up. And so we're with Roku now. And like I said, we just added Fire Stick. We're going to see how to do it. We're going to add Apple TV and Samsung TV later in the year. And then we'll be on all
You mean
four
I'm
of
not on
those.
Samsung TV? That's
No,
why
not
I'm
yet.
here.
I know. I got mine Samsung sitting right next to me right here too. Trust me.
My mom was gonna watch Samsung today. Okay.
You know, but we will be on Samsung. It's actually Samsung offered me. It's weird because this company offers all 5 of these, including internet TV. But Samsung actually called us and offered us a better deal going through them for Samsung TV.
Oh, I'm sure.
So I'm gonna have to see how it'll fit into the system, but
Yeah.
I think that's who we're gonna go with. I mean, they offered a much better deal. I mean, it was really a good deal. Apple, I don't even want to talk to Apple. We'll just go through the company we got. I'm not going to deal with Apple. It's they got too many restrictions on what they want done and what they don't want. So when you go through the system, through the Roku system or through the company we use to use them, we don't have to adhere to all of that stuff. Because
Joe's opinions don't actually represent the opinion of Joe Davis on
that's
Apple.
right. That's right.
Because again, I love Apple. Right?
Yes,
I'm gonna say this about everybody.
I don't hate Apple. I mean, I
want to do all of them, Joe. I'm like, it doesn't even matter anymore. I'm just a total TV whore. Like, put me on all of it. It doesn't matter.
Oh yeah, it's the best way to be. Well, it's so funny because when we first got with these people, they had us in this little card thing on Roku, and people were having a hard time finding this and all. So I got in a big fight with them, and I mean, I thought they would kick us off for sure. And so they took us off the card. Then I couldn't find us. Well, now they put us into the live section. Anytime there's live shows, when we're having it says live, we're in the live section, so it makes it much easier to find us now. I was like, okay, I guess they didn't get mad at me. I mean, I cussed them in like 3 different languages. Man, it was bad.
That's awesome.
It was bad. But anyway, so wait, let's backtrack. So I mean, you just it sounds like this was just naturally in you. I mean, maybe because your dad was in the fields, but it just seems like the broadcast and the writing, you just seem like it might have been just a natural step for you.
There's a tape, cassette tape for you kids. That's this little thing that you put in a deck and played. You press play and it would, you get to listen to it. There's a tape of me from 1980 when I'm 10. That's the 1900s kids. At any rate, I figure with us being a Roku, we've got kids watching too. So,
well,
anyway,
I'll be honest. Every show on this network says 18 and over.
There you okay. Well, there you go. All right. So, maybe some people know what we're talking about. So, at any rate, in 1980, I remember looking out the window of my home and recording it on a tape doing the weather. That was probably the first time that I ever really went, I'm going to do this at some level. But it goes all the way back to Casey Kasem and American Top 40 and, all of that. And
the man that never aged.
Yeah. And I got to meet, I was so fortunate. I got to meet, what's his name from American Bandstand, who also is like a hero of mine. And, these guys, it's funny. I probably shouldn't have been fighting going upstream with that so long, because I had so many opportunities from so many really good people that could have given me an advancement way, way earlier. I met all the guys from ABC's Wide World of Sports, and that was really the area that I wanted to be in more than any other. And that one I did sort of take advantage of a little bit. And, ultimately I did get to work with Jim McKay for the Olympics, and that was his last broadcast, was the 2002 Olympics, I believe, as far as, sports were concerned. So I got the opportunity to work with the people who were like my heroes when I was a child, which when you think about, a kid growing up in Logan, Utah, which it's a farm community, college town. My parents were college graduates barely. We were really poor. We were very lucky. There was a farmer down the street to bring us a dozen eggs and some milk and a rabbit every week, or we would have starved. It was for real. To think that was ever possible, that I might someday be on national television, or to get to the point of being with these guys that were my childhood heroes, that's not even a thing. And now, I've worked with half a dozen of them. It's just weird. I never quite get over it. So from that perspective, that's the big thing. I'll tell you, Joe, the truth of it is, when you ask about writing, it's the thing I'm decent at, but don't enjoy, right? Isn't that kind of the funny thing? Like I love the finished product. I have no patience for myself, and I get frustrated.
I can understand that
easily when I don't find the right words for the things that I want to express. And I consider my vocabulary to be better than average, but not enough. I mean, we don't use nearly half the words that are available to us. And
true.
If I could, I would be much happier. But I tend to be a little lazy when it comes to that. I'd rather talk. I'd rather be in this environment.
I am too. But I never planned on getting on any of this stuff. I figured I'd follow my dad's footsteps. We own real estate and clubs and restaurants. I figured that's what I'd be in.
And that's what I kind of do on the side with my wife. So that's kind of funny, right? Yeah. I don't know.
And I remember, though, I met Harry Cosell at a Saints game. I was, God, I don't know, 14 or something. And all of a sudden, I was like chatty Catty, man. Just,
I bet.
And the guy said, well, you should get into radio. You'll probably be a natural. I'm like, no way. And then I remember when, what was it? It's an AM station out of Riverside, Iowa, where Captain Kirk was born. He called me up one day. He said, I've heard you do that support group. He said, man, you make a great radio show host. I'm like, get the out of here, man. You can't host a radio show. What are you, stupid? An AM radio show? No, I said, no, it's okay. He said, no, just come try it. And you know what? The very first guest I ever did, I got into a fight with. I mean, knock down, drag out. I'm lucky the guy kept me. I mean, it was bad. I said, I'm sorry, dude. That guy was an idiot. I couldn't help myself. And then, but he said he loved it. He said he watched. The audience kept growing. And so people came to saying, well, they started getting controversial guests because they knew I'd pick on them. Next thing I knew, I was doing 3 shows a week. They were paying me good money. And, but what happened was a friend of mine owned Pioneer Radio in Hong Kong. And he said, look, I'm going to give you Pioneer Radio. He said, I'm retiring. I'm going to give it to you as a gift. And I was like, really? And he's like, yeah, because we were real tight. And he said, I'm going to give it to you. So I called my producer and the owner of the station. I said, look, he gave us this. I said, we can go ahead and put all of our stuff on there because I was hosting Wake Up USA. I said, we can put all of our stuff on there. Well, he got mad and fired me.
No.
So I started my own show. Next thing I knew, 5 years later, I had a network.
Wow.
30 shows on it. I was like, today I've got over 50 shows over 50 hosts and 40 shows. And we go around the entire world. We actually have 2 shows that go to every country in the world, including North Korea.
Wow.
UFO Undercover goes in North Korea. It's got 15 listeners, but I don't know who they are. Every time I say that, I wonder, is this like some little underground group?
It's got to be Kim Jong-un and probably a few family, right?
It's either somebody high up or some little hidden underground thing somewhere. I said, because I don't know who else, because there's no internet there. No. There's no real TV or radio or anything in there. I mean, you can't even drive around. You're not even allowed to leave the town you're in. So I was really surprised to see it. And then, but like this show, like I said, I was telling earlier, this show goes out to about 120 to 130 countries, and it's growing every week.
Wow.
This one goes out to like what I call the main countries, but it does go to Russia and China and places like that. So, and every now and then we'll get somebody from one of those countries that'll call in or write in. Matter of fact, because of it, not this one, because one of the other ones I do, I was on Task Television and Pravda Television just recently, and I thought for sure I was going to get a phone call from the government. I thought for sure. Because, I did 6 hours with Pravda, and TASS I did about 11 hours total. Now, how much they used, you know how TV is, man.
Yeah.
I've done Ancient Aliens where they've recorded 20 hours and I've seen 5 minutes.
I'm in about the equal amount of time for about the same amount of footage for Real Housewives of Salt Lake.
No.
I was really excited about that one. And then You know, I
It's
mean,
when
that
it's when his
that was a
blonde wig
career
fell
maker.
off that they cut him out.
Oh, it was a
I
career
don't know.
maker.
It's
I had
crazy.
my chance, and unfortunately, they one of the Real Housewives got arrested,
Oh,
and
shit.
because she got arrested, the whole take on the show changed, and I lost my spot. I'm still on it for a second, but it's nothing like what I'd hoped.
Well, but I mean, broadcast journalism's got to be fun. I mean, there's lots of stuff to get into. It gives you kind of just an open area to cross. I mean, you're not pigeonholed to one little thing. I mean, you can do sports, you can do science, you can do sci-fi. I mean, just whatever you feel like getting into. Because I know a lot of people when they tell me they do broadcast, they pick a subject and that's all they want to do. You know, it's like they pigeonhole themselves into this one spot, and then they're scared to cross over. So I can't do that. I'm too nosy and too arrogant. So I've got to multitask.
I get that. I think that some of it has to do with just, the staying power of that and being able to kind of go here and there. For me, has always been based on like trying to stay out of the weeds a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I have very strong political opinions. I have very strong.
That's a good thing, though.
Yeah, I mean, I have my opinions, right? And I gather them from lots of places, right? I feel I'm well read, and I when you mentioned some of the the other broadcasters out there, I go to all of those for news, right? I look at everybody for news.
I do too,
because I don't think you get a fair shake if you don't look at you're not looking at Al Jazeera, and you're not looking at Deutsche One, and you're not looking at BBC, and if you're not going to all those places to get your information, you're getting
you're losing.
So
it drives my wife crazy when I have like 6 European channels to watch, and then I've got ABC, NBC, CBS, and all of them, and of course I've got all the other ones, One American News, Fox. So what I'll do is I'll open my Roku, hit live, and just let them hop across.
Yeah,
because sometimes it's just some kind of special going on. I don't really want to sit there. I just want to see the news. And I was surprised. I like Sky News, which is Australian news. Yeah. It turned out to be a little. They got a lot of opinions on it.
Slanted one, like all of them have something, right?
Yeah, they're kind of slanted conservative a little bit, but see,
I
this network is different.
I don't know if I've talked to you that before, Joe. The 1440, that one news site. I get that newsletter every day, which just has here's the basic data. It doesn't give a particular slant.
Love that.
Yeah,
that's a really good place to go back to once you've kind of gathered all the things you think are valuable. But anyway, just kind of in that vein, I think that like you said, it's when you're just a broadcast journalist, if you identify that way, you pretty much open up the door to just about anything. I'm most comfortable in the sports arena probably than anything else. I feel like that's where the best stories are right now. It's where America puts its focus.
Unless you're interviewing a publisher of these amazing stories and announcing 12 new writers and 12 new artists every year.
Well, let me get to that, John. I was going there. Not to offend anyone. Like I said, I love all of them. I got to tell you, I really love author services and writers of the future, I have to say. But
there's a bunch of good people over there.
But let me kind of finish up. What I was going to say is, I identify probably with sports most. And then because I've had so much experience with John and with the authors that I've been so fortunate to meet, it is an area that is now highly loved by me. I'm here in Park City where it's natural and almost required to be part of the world of film anyway. Which when you're if you're a journalist, you're a filmmaker, that's part of it. Yeah. But Sundance is here, so we get all of the film and we get all of the the hype of things that are happening in Hollywood, and so kind of in keeping with that, the most of those things come from books. Most great movies come from books, and I am definitely a reader first before any of these other things. That's always what I've been. My parents were really strong on that, and believed that was the most important place to start. And while I am now kind of a lazy reader where I listen to audiobooks.
Yeah, well, I prefer it that way myself.
I get more of them in, which is great. But in general, what I'm saying is I find you're right about being able to go into, into different areas, but there's definitely ones I prefer. Right? Yeah. And maybe the only part about the politics side, I'll just say this. I often wish I had the platform, maybe without wrecking all of that other stuff, to just once in a while say the things that I want to that maybe affect the world.
I'll have to
keep it peaceful.
When we get off air, I'll have to show you how you can do that.
Yeah. As a military guy, I mean, we think that not everything is a nail when you have a hammer. I know that's what people think, and we're not looking to have a war when we're military. But in fact, what we're really looking for is peace first, right? That's really pretty important to most of us. So anyway, ultimately what I'm saying is I think when it really boils down to it, it'd be fun to have that to have a soapbox to stand on and maybe be able to say some things that maybe affect the world a little bit. And I don't know that sports necessarily does that. And no
sports affects the world a little
bit. Right? But what I hope it does, and this is true of all of the other mediums, maybe this is really the point, is that those stories that are out there, and everybody has one, everybody's got a great story. People don't realize that. You've got a great story. No matter who you are, what you do, you have a story. And that story is valued and should be important to not just you, but to your family, your friends, to people you don't even know you're impacting, right? And ultimately, what I love is that these sports stories and oftentimes some of the other genres that I've been getting into, of course, do give us the opportunity to celebrate the good things in this world and the things that we should all value and care about the most, which is our friends, our family, our very, very lives. And I treasure. That's important to me. That's what I value.
It's like we have, we're probably one of the few networks in the world that do this, but we have conservatives on our network. We have liberals on our network.
Yeah.
We have progressives on the network. We have libertarians. We have centrists. We have we're represented by all the political views and most of the religious views. So it gives us a little uniqueness when we're out there, because like Tuesday night, we'll be doing polling night. So we'll have 10 hosts on, 6 of which will have completely different political views. They'll get along. There'll be some heated discussions, but they'll get along because we're all friends to start off with. We may not all agree on how the world should be run or things like that, but It does. But so I learned a long time ago, because I couldn't keep myself out of politics. Eventually, I just had to say something. So I'm a centrist, so it makes it a little easier on me, because I'm an equal opportunity hater.
I am too. Ultimately,
yeah. So being that way, I noticed my audience was more forgiving. So if I'd have came out conservative or liberal, I would have lost half my audience. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. I've seen it happen.
Especially now. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, especially now. So like I told a good friend of mine the other day, because he wanted to make a comment. I said, remember Kaepernick? I said, he wanted to make a comment. He was big and he was famous, and he got out there and it backfired on his ass. Mm-hmm. And I said, he made a lot of money off of it, but the world just doesn't like him. I said, he can't even get back into football because of it. I said, that which is bullshit. I mean, he shouldn't have got thrown out of football because he made a political statement, but he did. And then a lot of other people just kind of kicked him to the curb. And, we live in a country where you should be allowed to express your views without being, canceled, but we don't. We're not in a country that's like that.
I feel like that's the thing that I do the military, why I'm a member of the military in the first place, is so that you can. And it offends me highly when people want to cancel someone over the things they say.
Yeah.
And people ask me this all the time. They're like, "Oh, how do you feel about somebody burning a flag?" Like, I care at all. Do it. Go ahead. I do what
you're right. Burn a damn thing.
We do, so you can. Like, you're so lucky to live in a place where your military cares enough to go out and defend you, so that you can do those things. That's the special part of this country, right? Like, you should be able to say pretty much anything you want. And the only thing I'm obviously no fire in a theater, right?
Yeah.
But
yeah.
And I'm no good with hate speech. Don't get me wrong. That's not acceptable. But beyond
it's
that,
still guaranteed by the Constitution.
Yeah, exactly. And beyond that, what I look at that point is satire and saying things. I'll stand behind any comedian that says something.
Oh, I love that.
I think that's an absolute, right? I mean, especially if that's your job. Right.
I did some satire on Kamala and Trump a couple of weeks ago. It was freaking hilarious, and people are like, "You're such a bleep bleep." I can't use those words in this show.
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Why?" I said, "I hated on both of them." He said, "Yeah, but it's the way you did it." I'm like, "What was it? It's satire." I said, "Y'all don't know what satire is." I said, "Basically, it's comedy. People, come on, get a grip." I said, because I was cracking just, someone were, we'll say less than nice jokes, but still, it's still, it's my show, it's my life, and it's something I wanted to express, and it was a way to get out a message for people to look at things without actually having to take the hardcore political road.
Yeah.
Because when you get too hardcore, people just feel the need to try to cancel you. I'm lucky. I do get things like I got a letter from a guy a few years back. You're one of the most beautiful research, one of the best researchers I've ever seen. And ufology, you're probably the most brilliant people in the field. He said, "But Joe, when it comes to politics, you're a blankety moron, right?" I was like, "Well, it's your opinion. Feel free to express it." I didn't get mad about it. I just said, "Well, it's your opinion," but it didn't cost me a listener either. And I also do 4 other venues. I do Science and Beyond, the Authors Quill, News on the Flip Side, and UFO on the Cover. So people get to see me in different views. So they're a little bit more forgiving when I go this way or I go that way, but they also know how I am. One day I may be taking up for Kamala Harris, and next day I might be squarely putting my foot in her ass. The same thing with Trump. You just never know until whatever mood I'm in or whatever articles I was reading or listening to that day may send me over the edge. It's like when they were telling me about Joe Biden with his garbage comments. I was like, oh, that doesn't express me. He's in a senile. What aggravated me is when the stenographer came on and said that they were trying to rewrite what he said. That pissed me off. Okay. I said, look, he said it, put it in a history. That's part of it. Nobody really cares. Everybody thinks he's nuts anyway.
Well, the truth of it is, like, again, this is one of those things, right? Mm-hmm. Interpretation is a part
everything.
of it too, right? It's everything. And I've got to say, I mean, ultimately, is that what he meant? I don't know. And I don't know that any of us know, because here's a guy who, as you said,
it's no way you're going to be able to prove
just, with speaking, really. So, yeah.
I mean, I listened to him when he went to go talk to the Indians in Arizona. I don't know what he was saying. So, and that's what I told people about the garbage comment. I said, maybe it's what he meant. I mean, he did say about going to drown Trump. I said, he has said some nasty things. I said, but in all fairness to him, sometimes he's just saying stuff because I don't think his brains are matching the words together correctly. I mean, that Indian speech, nobody knew what he was saying. And I don't want to hate on somebody like that,
I feel like that word got a little, I mean, of all the things that have been said in this election, the word garbage is the least of them. So, like, can we all just...
I actually said that last night.
Yeah. I can think of a lot worse things that have been said. In general, though, I will say the one thing that I really would like to see come back is discourse and actual, the one, this is what I think most writers are really good at. And I think that most journalists are really good at, right? And that is that I think we have the ability to have hard conversations, difficult interviews. We can have arguments that are more of rhetoric than rhetorical arguments, and not so much this divisive nature that we've gotten into now. And really, not only do I think everybody's thin-skinned, as I said, and we need to be able to say whatever you want, because you're allowed to do that in this country.
Yeah. Which is also one of the things I really like about science fiction, since we are talking about the Authors Quill here. Is,
hey, I'm like, wherever you guys want to go.
Yeah, so I'm here in Authors Quill, just the fact of what's one of the good things about science fiction, and Joe's talking about satire, because that's also science fiction satire lends itself quite very well to that. We can point out foibles, and the seeds can be quite bitter, when you bite them, in satire. But that's one of the things that, like, what's one of the things that's really cool with Writers of the Future. Now, getting back to my little corner of the screen here.
You should do that, yeah.
Is the fact that you've got the ability to get a voice out there and to get the ability to share with what you can really address without getting into the super touchy part, feely, like you're going to, like, which right now everything was like, you say this, I'm going to cancel you, which we address here. But when you put it into another planet, another race, you got aliens all doing the same stuff that we can't talk about here and now, but you can talk about there. It gives you a chance to look at it and you can see, oh, that's silly. That's ridiculous. And maybe you'll have a realization. Maybe you won't, but maybe you'll look like, wow, that's just kind of like what we're doing here, and maybe can chill a bit on it, and that's one thing I see a lot with science fiction and fantasy specifically that you don't see in other, the crime mystery and all that type of stuff. Those are just like true life type things that you can emulate with those stories. But science fiction gives you a chance to address these social issues that are not otherwise safe to talk about because of that very reason. You polarize, you automatically lose half your audience. And so I see that a lot with, the stories. And that's why I've really enjoyed, my relationship actually with both of you, because you both have that media and have been able to talk about Rise of the Future and forward that and get people to just, it gives them an outlet to be able to talk. And because it's so hard right now with the arts have been so nominalized and so, marginalized and made less and less and less, whatever we can do to kind of like validate them, like, come on, you guys, do your art, do your stories, submit them. There's some place you can actually go. And we've had winners from 50 countries now over the years. And it continues to go, L. Ron Hubbard still funds it, as part of his, what he left in his will to be able to do that. And so it still has that ability for people to do. And we get thousands of entrants every quarter of people submitting. And where you are there in Salt Lake City or Park City, just next
up the road. Yep.
Yeah. It's just that we have so many winners from that area, from in part because of all the media, but also because we've got such good support from BYU, Brigham University and Utah Valley University and other schools there where Rise of the Future is a major influence on people that want to become writers.
Yeah. John, it's interesting. Some of the first critics of government and how things like we were talking about go are science fiction writers. I mean, Ray Bradbury, some of the others. So you're right. It's again, this is another outlet, another great place to be able to say your piece, to have your thoughts, and to freely express yourself.
You got Orson Welles, 1984, Ray Bradbury, 450, Fahrenheit 451. Yeah, those are serious protest pieces about what was happening at that time they were living.
Yeah, and look how often 1984 gets looked at when we're talking about the current world we're in.
Yeah,
from a geopolitical standpoint to the technology to everything, it's all there. So it's kind of interesting that from that perspective, there's always that chicken before the egg kind of thing, right? With science fiction. I've always appreciated that one, right? Which is, we all, Joe and I both probably thought we were going to be in flying cars by now.
Yes. I bitch about that all the time, by the way. Flying car. I do. I bitch about it. I'm like,
I'm mad. I'm like, where is it?
China's got a flying car now and we don't.
It needs to get delivered before I can't do it anymore.
That's what I said. I'm getting old. I need a flying car. I want my George Jetson car. Not only want my flying car, I want it folding up in a thing.
Yeah.
It's but I do, John. I mean, I bitch about it all the time. I'm like, come on, man. We got microwaves. We got all kind of stuff they said we were going to have, but no flying car. We got boat cars. We even got boat RVs now, but no.
Yeah. We are getting close, though, Joe. I did see FAA is going to permit somebody to start doing some actual transportation coming up.
The air cabs?
The taxi, yep.
Yeah.
I'm very excited about that. So we're getting close. It's about time, right?
It is about time. I'm ready. Yeah. I'm ready for it, I mean, I did see a composite one. Well, they call it flying car, but it's not really a flying car. It flies you around, but it doesn't drive on the road. It just flies around. It's basically a drone with a seat in it. It's what it is. It works. I mean, I've seen a couple of them lately, but I've been waiting patiently. There are some things I feel we should be more advanced on. Being some of the stuff I worked on when I was in the service in the early 80s, it feels like to me that we're being held back in some ways because some of the technology we had in the early 80s, we didn't see in civilian life until mid 90s.
Sure, but the one thing you kind of have to, and I love this from your shows before on Ancient Aliens, the cell phone. Like, what a huge leap that
I know.
is, though. That's a leap, right?
It's
I
elite.
mean,
And
so
this is the computer of the future,
did it
basically.
not, where did they get that? Is that some technology transfer going on, or what?
Well, I mean, we had the basic Captain Kirk phone in the beginning. I mean, a little flip phone, didn't do much. It made phone calls, took pictures. This damn thing. I mean, this is an 8-core with 258 gigs of RAM in it. That much memory in it. I mean, it's got a 128 megapixel camera on. I mean, come on.
More technology than was on the Apollo mission.
Oh, way more. Yeah, this phone could build the Apollo 50 times over. I can tell you now. Callan Rosin and the gang would have loved to have this.
Yeah,
we'd have probably been to Mars by now.
Yeah, it's just proof though that if you're a science fiction writer and you come up with some brilliant idea,
I love science fiction for that reason. Yeah. I mean, we now have the whatchamacallit beds from Star Trek. So now when you get in your hospital bed, it weighs you, it scans you, it does all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
We even got the ones that take your temperature and your blood pressure. So I mean, we're getting closer and closer to things, and it's nice to see us moving in those directions. And to be honest with you, I remember the guy who talked about the invention of laser, and he gave credit to what sci-fi was it? Was it the 20s? Spaceship, guy with spaceship lasers. Oh, what the hell was his name? I keep wanting to say Buckaroo Banzai, but that's not who it was. It was
oh boy, I know.
Was it Flash Gordon? No, it wasn't. Now it's driving me crazy. It's going to drive me.
We've had several speakers at our Rise of the Future events. That's astronauts and the engineers that have put the rovers on Mars. We had 2 different rovers with engineers that were our keynote speakers, and we had one guy that was the director of the Ames Research Center. They were all inspired by science fiction. That's what got them wanting, like, that's what made me want to, like, try and look and see. And I wonder if we can do this. And the one guy that was the director of Ames used to get in trouble because he'd be in history class and he'd have his book open and the teacher would come up to him. He'd have a science fiction book on the inside, a pulp book. If you're reading that, and I say, what are you reading? I'm reading the future. I'm reading about the future.
That's what you are reading about the future. I mean, there's so much science fiction today that I grew up reading or watching that is part of life.
Yeah.
It's just so much of it, and so much of it that we take for granted, because it's just become part of our life now. When I was talking to my grandson the other day, he's telling me something. I said, "Oh no, that's not how it was when I was a kid." He's like, "What do you mean?" I said, "We didn't cell phone. We didn't have a cell phone. We didn't even have hardly any video games." I said, "Activision hadn't even been invented yet." He's like, "What? No video." I said, "Yeah, my mom used to say you gotta go outside and play with the dog or go ride your bike or something." They were cracking up. They were like, "No, no." They call me Big Joe. They're like, "No, that's not true." I said, "Yeah, we didn't get to know. There's no video games and none of that." I said, "I didn't get a video game until I was like 19."
Yeah.
She's like, "Really?" I'm like, "Yeah." And I said, and then I got some good ones. I mean, I grew up on all of them: Atari and Sega and Nintendo.
Yeah.
I remember my son made me go get him a Sony. I'm like, "What the hell is this?" And Sony's a good game. But our military recruits these people now, because long-time Gurmans is what they want. They have good hand-eye coordination. They're used to playing the games, and it makes for great drone pilots. I know.
That was the we were talking about earlier, Joe. The Last Starfighter is what it was, where they recruited the guy playing the
Last
game.
Starfighter.
Oh,
Yes.
Yeah.
We were talking about that earlier, and I couldn't remember the name of it. My brain has gone from being excellent with names to like, what's a name? What the hell? It's not right. What is this? What is that?
I have to say, when it comes to names, writers of the future, John, I mean, that says it all, right? Mm-hmm. Writers of the future.
Exactly.
They're writing the things that are our future. I love that. So that kind of fits with your buddy getting nailed with the science fiction book, Joe.
It's funny too, because anytime I give a lecture now, it doesn't matter where I'm lecturing or what I'm lecturing about. Somebody always asks me about writers of the future. I guess when they look me up, because I've done so much work with John and been around him so much, that somewhere along the line, you're going to see writers of the future. I was telling him not too long ago, I was giving a lecture at Mississippi State, at Ole Miss, actually. And the teacher, not the English teacher, the lit teacher came up and said, "Oh, can you tell me about this?" He said, "Is this legit?" He asked me all these questions. I said, well, I said, let me finish what I'm talking about. And I said, I'll give you 15 or 20 minutes and we'll talk about Writers of the Future. And they had a totally bogus idea of what it was. And when I got through, he's like, really? I said, yeah. I said, anybody in here? So then all of a sudden the students started asking questions. Oh, I can submit. I said, yeah, it's under 17,000. I told them where to go, writersofthefuture.com. You want to buy some, galaxypress.com. And we talked about it for about 20 minutes because they get these weird ideas where I have no idea where they come from.
For recruitment.
Yeah. You know, that's what it is basically. And and after I get through talking, and they're like, "Wow, well, I didn't know all." I said, "Well, yeah." I said, "Go out and use it." I said, they want you to submit. They want you to win. I said, and if you win, you'll get to meet all kind of people, all kind of famous writers and stuff, and illustrators. And I said, that 1 week education will get, that's like 1 year of college is what that is. I said,
really
you're going to learn, it is. And you're going to learn so much in them 5-6 days you're there that it's incredible. And I said, it's not all about just writing either. I said, you're going to learn about finance and publishing. I said, there's so much information there that a young writer or even a because, you know, most of the writers I meet there are usually in their mid-30s when they win. And it's just so much information. It does help people. It helps them out a lot.
Hopefully, John and I get to teach them a little more about how to handle media and all that too. So
I love talking about media.
Trouble and all.
Yeah,
I love talking. I actually do lectures on media, man. I go out and I've done several this year alone. It's people ask me how to handle media especially when they're first getting in. I said, "You really want to know how to handle media?" And I tell them because I scare the hell out of them sometimes. And I'll tell people all the time. I said, "Really?" I said, "Well, I'll tell you this much." I said, "If you know you're in a bad spot in a bad interview." I said, you can always just hang up the phone or get your ass up and walk off the stage. I said, taking on a 20-year veteran host is the only thing that's going to happen is you're going to lose. Yeah. I said, when a host tells you, oh, I read your book, ask him some questions. They're like, why? I said, they probably didn't read your book. He's like, really? I said, yeah, just ask them. I said, only if you feel like they're being hostile to you. I said, and they'll be like, what? Wait, what? And they'll be on their back foot the rest of the interview. Just like, you can do that? I said, yeah, you can do it. It's your interview. You can say whatever you want. I said, just be careful because not everybody who calls you for an interview is going to be friendly press.
That's true.
I said,
when we book media for all of our winners, the first thing I do is I research them to make sure they don't have a history of being nasty with authors or hostile.
And I tell them that all the time. Go listen to them. Go. Yeah. I said, you know what? I said, you can even go to one of their shows and ask questions from the audience. I said, go know who it is that you're going to be interviewing. You male, female, it doesn't really matter. I said, just make sure they're not there to ambush you. Yeah. He said, well, have you done? I said, yeah, because when I talk about ufology, I get ambushed sometimes. Like when I was in New York, they tried to ambush me. That poor guy wishes never to talk to me. All I did was he's in the middle of ambushing me. I said, well, wait, stop. I said, everybody out here listening in New York, can you do me a favor? If you've seen or had a weird experience in New York, can you call in? That was the rest of the show. That was it. He couldn't say anything else. They were just taking call after call after call. I said, oh, you think this is not real? I said, apparently there's a lot of idiots in New York. Oh
yeah, you get the fans on your side. That's
it. That's how you do it. And you know, and if you're a good sci-fi writer or any writer for that matter, doesn't really matter sci-fi. If you're a good writer, people are going to respect your work. It's easy to get somebody in the back foot, but there are going to be people from time to time who just feel the need to be a you know what. Yeah. They just can't help themselves sometimes. I don't know why people have to be like that. But I guess there are hosts and journalists out there that want to be like shock hosts or shock journalists or shock jocks for some whatever reason. I'm the worst person to do that to. I am way too mean at stuff, and I've been doing this way too long. It's too easy for me. So, and I'll tell people. I said, you ever want to hear how you handle? I said, from time to time you'll hear me do an interview. Where somebody's being a butt, and I'll just take them for a little ride around the tree. And sometimes I'll just tell them some stuff just to get them going. You know, just let them go and get them going. At the end of the show, I said, "Did you really believe all that shit? You cannot be that dumb, right?" And you know, they just find themselves like, "Oh man, you're just no." I'm like, "Yeah, well, it's part of being in business."
Well, that's when I do the interviews with people. When I interview the authors, they're always surprised. You really did read my book. They're so used to being interviewed by somebody that has no clue. They read maybe the Amazon description, but then I get into questions like, well, here you use this one word here, and you talk about this, and your this line here was like poetry. And I'm like, wow, you really.
That's why I tell them if you want me to interview you according to your book, send an audio book.
Yeah,
because I can listen to it on my way to work. Because I got an hour drive back and forth every day. I got.
Couldn't agree more.
yeah, like tonight, I'm going to be doing a lot of archive work, so I'll be listening to stuff while I'm doing archive work. It gives me time to listen, but I can't sit there and read and do archives and stuff online at the same time or drive.
You know,
So,
the journalism world is so, the speed of it's so tight that, unless you're doing that, it's going to be pretty hard to get it read.
Yeah.
It
No,
is,
I
yeah.
understand. It's a different world that you've got there. You've got like, maybe you got 5 interviews, you know, in a segment, and you've got whatever briefing you've had on, and that's what you got to roll with. So you can't have read the book or even know the author, or sometimes not even know the genre. You know, you're just there, you know, and so that's why I've always tried to go in there, and we talked about this, Joe Davis, on this, where, you know, I've always tried to go in early to meet, if I can, you know, if I can actually get it, to find out, what do you know about science fiction or fantasy, and just see if all they know is Star Trek or Lord of the Rings, or if they know anything more beyond that. And then I'll base my answers around what their reality is of science fiction and fantasy, because otherwise I'm going to lose them. And if I lose them, I'm out of there.
Yeah. I think, and most people have one or the other of those that are they're kind of the one they enjoy the most too.
Yeah.
I mean, fantasy is not my area of expertise. Have I read a lot of it? Sure. Can I get along in that world? Yes. Do I know enough of it to really speak to it? Probably not, you know?
Yeah.
And so, in that case, you know, I hope I get a good synopsis. I hope I have a good understanding, read what I can, don't read the ending first.
Yeah. But that's an important point we just said right there for anybody listening who is going to do an interview. Make sure there is a good synopsis that the host can get an idea what it is, and they're not going into it just totally, oblivious of what you're talking about. So it's got to be something that's good that they can then think with it, so they can actually ask a question and you can talk about it and have a conversation.
Well, you should, John, just to sort of dovetail on that, I would say that for most people that are preparing to go for an interview, you should go out of your way to make that interview as easy as possible for that interviewer. Like, give them everything, give them the questions you want answered. If you think for even one moment that Jimmy Kimmel is, that is unscripted in the sense of, they don't have a script, but do they have a plan? 100 guaranteed.
Guaranteed they do.
They've got a plan before they go into that interview, because the last thing you want is a confused host and dead air and an unresponsive person, and it really does kind of take. It is a team effort, really. I think. I will tell you, as I've said many times, though, I never pre-interview anyone, and I'm going to stick with that. I'm never going to. But will I have an outline of how I plan to manage it? Yes, absolutely. Would that outline be better if I had the data I need from that person beforehand? Yes. Do I want to sit down and go over with them a plan? No. So there's this kind of balance, right, of like journalism and the integrity of that and the opportunity, and of course that kind of varies with the type of show you're doing. If it's if it is a talk show, that's a little bit of a different ballgame. But in general, I would like to have something to help. So yeah, that's definitely, for anybody that's thinking about like what this next interview they're going to have, give them what you want them to have. Give them what they need. It's going to be your best bet.
Absolutely.
What's that? Raymond Flash Gordon invented the laser.
Yeah. Is that the one?
Maybe. Okay. I know. Wait, stop. There was one that aired in 1936, I think. And then I think the series started again in 1954. And again, it started later on. Oh no, my favorite one's the campy one. Oh yeah. The movie, that's my favorite because it's just campy.
I love the movie.
Plus the empress or whatever she is, the daughter, she is just ungodly hot.
Yeah.
No,
and then it is a Queen. You've got Queen.
Yeah, it's Queen playing the music. It's just all around. I say it's campy, but it's fun. I enjoy watching it. My wife's like, turn it off, please. But I love it. And it's just that's
Well,
my
like the
favorite.
in
I
the
love
TV series where it had the rocket on the guy wire and the
Yeah.
sparkler was the thing, and they were
I
pulling it
can't
along.
remember the old guy's name who said that's where he got the idea from the laser from. And I was like, really? I said, but I've heard many scientists talk about different things that they've gotten ideas from science fiction. That doesn't surprise me, because one thing I've learned about science a long time ago is scientists are very intelligent, very brilliant, but imaginations are not quite the same as someone in sci-fi. So you take their experience and their little lack of imagination along with somebody with serious imagination, and you get a good product out of it. Well, guys, where do you think the flying car come from? From George Jetson. That's where it came from.
Right? Exactly.
That's right. That's where the flying car came from. Oh, you don't have to believe
One
me.
day I will have it.
That's right. That's what I'm saying. I'll be out there. You see, and as I get older, I'll be glad that we self-driving. I'll say, car, take me here. Car, take me there. Car, take me here. Oh, no, I'm not driving no Tesla right now that tells you where to go now. I'm not quite that brave yet.
At some point you won't have a choice, Joe.
That's true.
That's
That
the
is
funny
true.
part. People don't understand this. They think that they're going to be driving their cars forever. No, you're not. Enjoy it while you can, because it's
right,
going to come to an end in about
within 50 years. Yeah, he might be right. It might be 20 years.
Yeah.
It'll be within 20 to 50 years. You won't be driving any of your cars. Probably won't be driving anything with gas in them either. You're going to get a reprieve on the gas because, unfortunately, somebody had the eco people came out and found out that the electric car's got a bigger carbon footprint than the gas car does. So that kind of backslapped them a little bit. But oh no, the windmill's got even a bigger one. Oh no, the windmill's carbon footprint is huge. It's outrageous. And plus, they're not the most productive thing either. But give it time. It's like everything in our world. Remember the calculator? The first calculator was like this. You can't even see. It was like this, and it was $5,000. Today, it's like this tall and this skinny, and it works on.
Well, we started with
lighting your house. Yeah, you don't even have to have a battery in the damn thing anymore. So things change. It's like the first cell phone I ever got to use was actually in a car, and it was a phone like a princess phone from your house, but it was in the guy's car. It was mounted to the side, had some big whopping antenna in the back of it and all, and it was a cell phone. Yes, God knows how much it cost a minute back then. But today, cell phones are. They're really thin, and this one's a little bit bigger because I got this one intentionally because I wanted to use it for some things. But like this one right here, you can see it's razor thin.
Oh yeah,
it's they're just tiny. They don't have much weight to them. They're great. You can call anywhere in the world. Bruce, I do have a sat phone. Yes, I do. I don't use it often because it's kind of expensive, but I do have a sat phone. Well, because sat phone, you can make a phone call from anywhere in the world. Yes, you can be in the Arctic and make a.
Yeah,
you can be in his backyard too when he's in the swamps there, and you can make a call.
That's right, and in some places in the swamp, like I was in Arkansas not too long ago, coming back, and we lost all service, and we were in the deep woods, and there's no cell service there at all. So I said, and I was using the GPS at the time. I was like, "Oh shucks, this is not a good thing." So I got on the sat phone, hooked it up, and it had GPS. I clicked in, took the system, and it tells you when you're back in cell range of anything, so you can drop it off and go back to your cell phone. It's a nice feature, and it's not, most people are never going to need one because they're never going to go any place that you're going to use one. But I, unfortunately or fortunately, however you want to look at it, I do sometimes go places where. Well, I was in Utah giving a lecture about 7 years ago, and I broke it out. We went down to Area 51, and I had a local from Utah showing me around, and so we went to Area 51. Which, by the way, people, you can do like 85 or 90 down there. They don't care how fast you go down there. They just don't care. And there's lots of roads in Utah I found that are 85 miles an hour. I blew by a cop at night. He didn't even look at me. I was like, really? He didn't even lift his head up. The thing was beeping in the car. He didn't even look up. He's like, whatever. He probably thought I was putting along. But anyway, we went down there, and when we came back, he wanted to show me some ghost towns on the way back there on some highway in Utah. And we stopped at several places, and they had no cell phone signal whatsoever. So the sat phone came in useful. But where were we lecturing? Was it something Springs or something? I can't remember the name of the place. There was an outdoor conference. It was an outdoor conference is what it was. They had a big one and big blow up screens and all. It was a lot of fun. I went there 2 years in a row. 1 year was for aliens. 1 year was for politics. Oh, you people in Utah are pretty red. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to say nothing else.
A blue dot in the red state.
I'm not going to say anything else. I'm just going to leave that alone. I mean, we'll just say it was very red. Just leave
It is. Yeah.
No, I love the Utah people. I know they're great. Besides, it's probably the most literate state in the union.
I love Utah because we sell more books there when we go to that
Yeah,
convention.
because it's probably the most literate state in the union.
That's right.
We'll take it.
Per capita, I guarantee you, there's more readers there per capita than anywhere else in our country.
Yeah.
On behalf of Utahns, we accept. Thank you.
Yes, good.
And there's a lot of good sci-fi comes out of Utah.
No, I think when you look at Battlestar Galactica and so many other great things that have come from here, I'm proud of it. It's a good state. It's great.
It's a good state. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's a beautiful place.
We can't hold politics against them. We can just say, hey, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Which was your favorite Battlestar Galactica? Ooh, you gotta be touchy here and there.
I mean, I love the original.
Lorne Green.
Well, the original was fun,
but I got to tell you, I both Adamas are pretty terrific, right?
They are pretty good. They were both pretty
got the good fortune of interviewing both of them.
Oh, did you? That's nice.
Crazy, right? So I don't know. I can't even put a.
It's a tough one. It's a tough.
I love Lorne Green because I was also a big fan of Bonanza, where he was before that. He was.
Yeah.
Well, the biggest bitch I get about the newer one is they didn't like the way they didn't. Starbuck in the original series was just an insane person doing all kind of crazy shit. The new one, well, first off, she was a woman, which was a great actress, by the way. She's also a Mandalorian, and she did a good job, I thought. But for some reason, they just weren't as accepting of her as they should have been. Now, what's his face who played the bad guy? What's his name? Gaius. He did a good job.
Yeah,
I didn't find anything wrong with his
well,
job
I mean,
whatsoever.
it was, for a while they're considered the #1 miniseries of all time, and
it was doing good.
I feel like it still remains pretty high.
Well, they got a new one coming out. They got another one coming out, I should say.
Really?
Yes, I seen it not too long ago. I was like, yeah, but anytime I see those kind of things on any of the platforms, I just wonder how long it's going to actually be. I know we got to get out of here in a few minutes because we're going to run over, but anything you want to let anybody know, Joe? Anywhere you're going to be, you want them to come see? Anything you want them to buy? Or
Oh, yeah. I wish I had. So I don't have anything to pitch.
But if you're a sports person and need help, Joe's the guy to reach out to. He's great in handling PR. He can handle.
Yeah, not even just sports. Like if you're somebody who's looking to either one, how do I speak in front of a large audience, and how do I manage that? If you're somebody who is looking for how do I manage the media and the challenges of being interviewed if you haven't done it a lot. If you do get into trouble and now I need to figure out a way to spin this, you better call me soon. That's call me right now, right? Because the more time that goes, the harder that is to fix. If we do it right then, you can kind of, there's no such thing as bad press. We've said that. That's a true statement. You definitely can figure out a way to make it work for yourself typically. And there's, in this world, we give people a second chance. It does happen. So I think if I were to say the one thing that I can offer to people, it's that opportunity. So you can go to Watch Joe Davis on half a dozen different mediums there. So on Facebook, it's at Watch Joe Davis, same with Instagram. And can find what I'm up to and where I'm at and how I can help you. So that's probably the best way to keep in touch and see what's going on in my world.
Awesome.
Yeah. So this archive will be up next day or two for the main streams. It goes up on all of our Facebook, YouTube, and Rumble pages automatically. As soon as we log off, it publishes on its own. But on our main page, our main radio pages like SoundCloud and a few others, it'll publish probably tomorrow or the next day. It's so that way it'll get out there because SoundCloud has a pretty big audience. On all of them have a pretty big audience, but YouTube, for some reason, Rumble's kicking YouTube's butt for us. I couldn't tell you why. We just added in Rumble a few weeks ago, and it's really taken off.
That sounds cool.
So
Joe, are you a big coffee drinker?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Folgers is one of our sponsors.
Well, not to go against Folgers, but
that's okay.
I just started a new brand called Stolen Claim Coffee.
Well, you need to send me some coffee so I can advertise for you.
Some, and you could try that out. That's my newest little venture with my wife. So it's a lot of fun.
I like a good coffee, man.
That's a good one.
New Orleans, come on, we drink all kind of. Well, I'm a little different though because I remember I was somewhere in New York and And the guy says, "You like stout coffee, don't you?" He brought me this coffee. I said, "That's pretty good." He said, "Well, you didn't find." I said, "Dude, I was raised on community coffee and chicory." I said, "That's like
That's the good stuff.
that makes your eyes go ding 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 back in your head like one of the cartoons." He says, "Why?" I said, "Well, because Morning Call and Cafe Du Monde, what they do is they pour half a cup of that and a half a cup of steamed cream, and then you kind of lightens it up a bit so it doesn't kill the tourists. But it's a good coffee." And Folgers, when they approached us, I asked them, "Do you have a stout coffee?" They sent me Black Silk, which is a fairly stout. It's not a bad coffee. It's no, I try any kind of coffee. I tried that gun. Somebody sent me a pound of the was it Blue
Black
Gun or
Rifle.
something? Yeah, that's it, Black Rifle.
Also
And,
another Utah brand.
yeah, it was a pretty good coffee,
Yeah.
and we talked about it a few times. And what we do is a lot of times when we have meetings, when we have local meetings, I'll share it and let everybody talk about it while we're on air. And because we'll make a pot and sit down, have some coffee, talk about God knows what, because it could be anything. One of the things I do like about the position I'm in now is I'm allowed to talk about anything. I used to be, I was pigeonholed to the alien stuff and then to the political stuff and then to the science stuff. And then finally I've been around long enough that people are like, whatever, Joe, whatever you want to talk about, it's fine. Let's just,
Why not?
Just get up there and talk about it. But one of the things I do make money off is helping people dealing with media and learning how to get into the press and learning how to do a lecture without making yourself sound like an idiot. Because I get a lot of people who'll call me and ask me, they'll get on stage and they'll look at the crowd and it freaks them out. And I get that a lot. And I say, I said, my very first one I ever did, I said, I never thought about that. I said, very first lecture I did, I got up on stage, about 300 people, which compared to my radio shows is a tiny little audience. And I was like, what the hell did I get myself into? And then I learned I like to see people's expressions. So I'll pick 5 people out in the audience, and that's the faces I'll watch the entire show. I don't concentrate on anybody else unless they do something stupid. So I'm not really worried about what's going on. Just, that way I get the reaction to those faces when I say something, and it allows me to keep my train of thought away from the audience itself. So I can just yap away and yap away and yap away all I want. But it works really well for me.
Good.
And there's a couple other things we do to help people with that. But I can understand getting, like I said, my very first radio show, I got into a fight. I try to teach people how not to do that. Be nice to your guests.
Part of their PR.
Yes. Be nice to your guests. But
Yeah.
you know what? The guy that I got in a fight with, him and I are actually friends now. Not for about 10 years though. He even heard my name, he'd just explode.
Oh man.
I mean, I embarrassed him several times, and I didn't really mean to, but I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
I didn't, and nobody sat me down and said, "Hey, Joe, there's protocol and etiquette for this." Nobody told me that. But anyway, let me let you get out of here. I know it's getting late, and that's 6:30. Emily will come slap John around if I don't let him out of here. So,
Yeah.
she is, man. She is. I keep a cross in my top pocket when I'm down there around her. I'm just kidding.
Well,
Before anybody writes to me, and besides, mostly I don't know who I'm talking about anyway. Just the 3 of us. But man, I had a great time talking with you.
thank you guys for having me. It was fun.
Really,
If
good
you ever
seeing
want to
you,
get
Joe.
into something serious or just get in something deep, we host News on the Flip Side on Friday nights. It's a 3-hour show. We tell the guests they can stay as long as they want. We allow y'all to take the show where you want to take the show because there's 4 hosts on the show. So it's a little bit different setup than this. And people always think it's politics, but it's only really politics this time of year. The rest of the year, we do basic news and special events or special things we want to talk about and things like that. Unfortunately, right now it's just full blown politics because we're 3 days out of an election cycle. But all the rest of the time, it's not. We have a lot of fun. We bring on a lot of different guests. We talk about the military. We talk about books. We talk about the planet. We talk about space. We talk about science. I had Neil deGrasse Tyson on. He was freaking cracking me up. Man.
He's amazing.
Him and I got into a conversation because he actually came on UFO on the cover first. Him and Michio Kaku both came on UFO on the cover first, and then they came on the other show. And Michio both of them were just cracking me up. And we started talking about aliens. He's like, we should have a sign up there that says "Keep going till we mature." I was like, it might not be a bad idea. Put it on the moon. Keep going by. We're not quite mature yet. But we got into things like stepping stone theories and how to get to Mars and how to get into space without faster than light travel. We talked about all kind of other things. And believe it or not, Tyson is a fairly decent into sci-fi, pretty deep. Actually, Michio's is got some roots in sci-fi as well. So talking to him was kind of fun to hear them. They definitely got their own views on where the world should be. And Neil ventured a little bit into politics. He didn't want to get into, Michio wasn't going there at all, but Neil went a little bit into it. I said, well, you're from New York. I know you're a bluebie. And I said, you can talk about whatever you want, Neil. I said, I just, I know you're famous and I don't want you to get yourself in trouble with your audience. I said, because, our audience, which that particular show is about 3.5 million. I said, we got a lot of both here. We got liberals and conservatives. I said, so I don't want you to, get you pigeonhole yourself in because of something you said. He said, oh, no, I'm not going to say nothing like that. And he was something, I can't remember what it was. It was just something he wanted to get off his chest about something that was going on. But he was a lot of fun.
One thing that he loves that I definitely want to talk about sometime, Joe. Let's, I'd definitely love to join you over there.
Oh, yeah.
Sometime to talk about simulation theory. I'm a big believer.
Oh, that's a good one to talk about. Oh, yeah. Anyway. And one of our hosts who's on the show, his dad was in he was hell, I forgot what you call him. I don't want to call him a secret agent because that's not what he was. He was kind of a secret agent, but they went into developing new things to help us expand that wasn't allowed to be talked about when he was alive. But now things have changed. His son knows a lot about it, so we talk about a lot of this stuff. And but all that's great stuff. I'll
look forward to that.
What? I'll get Carmen to get in touch with you.
That'll be great.
I'm gonna get you on news as soon as the political cycle is over with. So I tell everybody, give us a week after the political cycle, because I'm sure whatever wins, there's going to be a lot of fallout.
It's going to be a little while. Yeah.
So I tell everybody, just let us get through that, and then because I go back, I get so angry sometimes. I'm like, really? No, well, you're an idiot, and she's an idiot. And, everybody around y'all are idiots. But you know what? I will say this before we leave. I did read this article yesterday from one of AOC's people that she hangs out with. They want to deport Elon Musk. I'm like, wait, excuse me? I said, you got all these illegals in my country. You want to kick out the only guy that's actually doing something? I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. That one took me off guard. That one I had to go say something about. But I mean, this is the guy that's.
I don't know about deporting him, but maybe we, I don't know.
Maybe we need to calm him down a little bit. But I mean, he launched more rockets last year. He launched more rockets last year than anybody did for the last decade. So I'm like, come on, just leave the guy alone. You got Starlink up there. He's going to Mars. Just, as long as he don't do nothing stupid, leave him alone.
He gets to say what he wants, like we said.
And somebody said, well, he's here illegally. I said, yeah, well, there's like 20 million illegals in the country, and you're going to pick on the guy to actually making a difference. I said, nah, I don't think so. But other than he is crazy, though. I would have never thought in a million years.
I think you have to be a little.
Yeah, but I would have never thought in a million years he would have been that hardcore as a conservative, because he was a Democrat.
Yeah,
and I was just surprised to see.
Well, he saw what was happening in California. He saw what happened in California.
Yeah,
I think the thing that pushed him over the edge was where you've got now, if a kid, a child decides they want to change their sex, that the teachers can't stop them and they can't tell the parents. That's a law now in California, and if the parent has an issue with it, they can take the kid away from the parents. I mean, that's 1984. And so that's what pushed him over the edge.
Time for a new party. Maybe that's what it is.
Yeah.
We need a centralist party so all the middle people can get in one party.
Yeah. Anyways,
I don't know.
That's insanity. That's California. So that's what he decided. I'm leaving.
Yes, well, I'm not going to hate on a guy because he is the richest man on the planet.
I just want to go to space, so can he do that? That's
well,
that's
what he's trying to do. That's what he's trying to do.
Well, it's funny you said that because about 4 years ago I joined.
I got a jet because
get out of here.
I'm gonna get sent there next. So anyway,
it was a great night. Thank you, man.
Seeing you, Joe. Thank you.
Be good. Thanks again.
Okay, but say hi to your beautiful wife.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank everyone for listening to the Authors Quill with myself and John Goodwin and our two guests, Joe Davis and James Rosone. That was
James Rosone. Yes.
Yeah, so I want y'all. Oh no, they'll both be back on. They'll probably come hang out with us on News and Flips. It'll be a couple of weeks because we got to get through all this other stuff first. What are you talking about, Marsha? This show? No. This show we do really just authors and illustrators. Well, no, because sometimes the conversations like with James, he's into some stuff that I'm into. That's he's an author, but some of the stuff we were talking about is how he gets his information for his stories. Yes, and then I'm also into some of that stuff, so we kind of expanded on it about. But that's what we got John here for. John gets us back on topic. Yeah,
Exactly.
no, that's John's job to get us back on topic. Yes, it is. John Goodwin, yeah, he's president of Galaxy Press. He's a big boss. He's a really nice guy. And yeah, I'll say it while he's here. I say it when he's not here. It doesn't really matter. But we got to go. I want to thank everyone again for tuning in to United Public Radio and the Authors Quill. I hope everyone's having a great weekend. Be sure to get out and vote. I don't give a shit who you vote for. Just vote. I would like to see 200 million people vote in this election. I really would. I'd like to see a record broken for our country. Well, because I want to see whoever wins. I want to know that they won legitimately. That there was overwhelming, support for this individual. Like again, Christopher, I don't care who you vote. You can vote for whoever it is. What's her name? Something Stein. I don't care. Just don't vote for Kennedy on a ballot where he's not running for president. That's just a waste of a vote. Other than that, good night and stay tuned for. I was going to say Spaced Out Radio. I'm sorry for the Gray Zone. See y'all Monday. Good night, everybody.